You are now listening to Mr. Z Blackneffect.
What's going on? What's going on, y'all? What's going on? What's going on? Z, where the hell have you been? You're late today. You were supposed to stream yesterday. You kept on pushing the time back. Oh man. Look, life was life, and y'all. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. So, um, there are things that I want to cover today that really have very little to do with the 304s. And Corieller says, Z late as hell. And yes, I am. I'm late. I'm really over a day late, if you really want to call it. If you really want to call it, right? So my apologies, everyone, but we are here. We are here. We are here. So let's actually put this up before we get underway. Fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. So we want to show that we don't only talk about the 304s here. Oh man, that would have been a good rhyme if I actually said the word the right way. But yeah, and so we're gonna start off with the absolute incendiary. We're gonna start off asking a real question to hip hop heads nationwide, right? Especially the brothers in the Northeast, especially the Jay-Z stands. We're gonna play this, and it's gonna be a real question. Now, by the way, I have far more serious matters to speak about. Well, we gonna start off lighthearted. Z, you going backwards as hell. Usually people start off heavy, right? Usually people start off serious, and then to make sure that people don't go jumping off of bridges and slitting wrists, then they end off with something jovial and lighthearted. True indeed, but we're gonna start off lighthearted, and we're gonna get to some more sobering stuff as we continue. Continuing.
Nobody give no fuck about what Jay-Z talking about on that damn stage. Jay-Z ain't never been the top dude for real. He was the Triple H of the fucking rap game. Look at Triple H's career in WWE and compare it to Jay-Z's career in rap. When Triple H came into the game, who was the top dudes? Bret and Diesel. When Diesel left, it was Bret and Shawn. By the time he came into his own with DX and the whole game thing, my time! Rock and Austin basically got the business fucking booming. Then everybody else came after him, from Bret and Eddie to Eddie and Benoit. Oops. To Cena and Orton, to Cena and Batista, to Punk and Cena, to Bryan and motherfucking Punk. Then Punk left and nigga Roman was coming into his own. Like, Triple H ain't never been the top dude, just like Jay-Z. When Jay-Z came with the Hawaiian Sophie shit, it was LL and Big Daddy Kane. Ice-T and Ice Cube and certain niggas was still around doing their thing. Then when he was underground right before Reasonable Doubt, Jigga the J, Jigga the Z, dude, all that bullshit, it was Big and Pac. Then when he dropped and them niggas get killed, it was Mason DMX with Harlem World, and DMX was getting ready to drop Get At Me, dog, because niggas knew X was finna blow. Then he come again with Hard Knock Life in Volume 3 in the Dynasty. Eminem and Nelly them pretty much took shit over, and you had Ja Rule peaking and Ludacris around that time. Then he really got with the Blueprint 1, but by then Nas done smacked his ass across the goddamn room a couple times. Eminem done brought 50 Cent into the fold, which Jay-Z had to warn the whole Rockefeller about 50 Cent, and then retired because he knew niggas was on his ass for real. Came back a couple years later, T.I. and Wayne was running everything, and Kanye was getting ready to peak with Graduation. Then over the years, Wayne brought Drake into the fold. Then Kendrick come into the fold. Then Cole came into the fold. Kanye was still murking shit. This nigga Hove ain't never been that nigga for real, man. Then on top of that, the only reason he able to get in most of them billionaire doors is because his wife is Beyonce. Just like only reason Triple H can get in certain doors is because his wife is Stephanie McMahon and his stepdaddy is Vince McMahon. Them dudes ain't never been them dudes for real, man. Get them goofy ass niggas up out of here.
What do we think about that? Hey, woo! Some of his history on Jay in the timing is just a smidge off, like by millimeters. But, woo, look, Mr. Z is not actually a Jay-Z hater, believe it or not. With that, there is something to be said about just being at the right place at the right time and staying power and being somewhat notable, I guess, when the Telecom Act, or the repeal of the Telecom Act, better yet, happened. And just, you're maybe not A plus tier, but just staying power and being talented enough. We're not going to take that away from Jay at all, right? You're good, right? You're good enough. You might even be great, but you're not maybe in the greatest tier list. But because you're great, and because your contemporaries peak and then they fall off, or they do their own thing, or they get deleted, right? And just staying power, and we know how compound interest work. Eventually, you become the face, or you're notable enough, right? And there's also ego, right? When your contemporaries get deleted in their mid 20s, and you live to be in your 50s, and their impact was so great that low key you are still chasing their impact 30 years later. What happens? What happens when you are still chasing Biggie and Tupac's impact 30 years later, even though you had far more platinum plats? Obviously, you had 30 years to get them, right? You and Jay was right at the time. He married the hottest chick in the game, right? He was definitely right at the time, right? So what happens when just decades of that, right? So I would argue you end up here, where this young man is saying, "Look, man, he ain't never really been that dude for real." Now, I don't know how much I agree with that, to be fair. What I will say is success, access, especially over time, reveals things about us, I would argue. I wouldn't know. I'm not there yet. And looking at Jay and what we've seen from him, especially over the past decade-ish, a little bit over a decade, I would argue from Occupy Wall Street to now, Jay has not necessarily been on the right side of history. Definitely not necessarily on the right side of Black people, as if he cares. And he's walking a very fine line and being exposed for essentially being the go-between for elite whites concerning Negroes. He's being called out specifically for his campaign with Target. For those of you that don't know, I'm pretty sure everybody here knows. Jay is re-releasing Reasonable Doubt, if I'm not mistaken, and it's being released exclusively at Target. Now, for those of us that know, Target, Walmart's biggest competitor in the US, is on a no-fly list concerning Black people, right? And yet, Jay-Z, knowing that, sells his album exclusively at Target, and then freestyles about it and mentions Google and Meta and all this. You know, when someone's really trying to do this roundabout way, yeah, I did that, but what about you? What the whataboutism? The whataboutism. You knew it was bad because this egotistical maniac started saying people wasn't even using this word capitalist and capitalist as a slur, and I'm paraphrasing, capitalist as a slur until I started making money. Who the hell are you? No, serious question to Mr. Carter. Who the hell are you? Wait, people started using capitalist as a slur because of you? Wait, what? You on the wrong side of Occupy Wall Street. You're on the wrong side of this Target thing. You're on the wrong side of the NFL in the Kaepernick thing. People see you for who you are, player, and you lining your pockets up and maybe giving out turkeys for Thanksgiving. Look, Mr. Z gonna call it. I was done with Jay when that dude said, my presence is the charity. Huh? Yes, I had my ears to the streets at the time, and when he said that, I was like, "Yep, I already see where this is going. Yep, I'm done." Huh? Now we should have known. No, that doesn't mean that every brother that's ever been in the streets is this type of person, especially if they were able to make it out. But we should have known. Hey, look, how did Jay make his money? And shout out to Xers. Ooh, Xers, look, Mr. Z, don't be trying to throw Xers under the bus because Xers got a raw deal in this in America, especially black Xers. Xers got a raw deal, but Xers worship of Jay-Z, especially you goddamn northeastern Xers. Dude is a slime ball. I said it, and I think some of y'all are okay with that if you could get billions like him, huh? The idea of going from and it is borderline a fairy tale, right? You went from poverty to an entertainer to marrying and having as a wife for what, approaching, are they approaching 2 decades now? They're at least around what, 15 years of marriage, something like that, right? Jay-Z and Beyonce. To becoming arguably one of the faces of hip hop, definitely over the past couple decades, staying power, right? Yeah. It is. Jay-Z's life is somewhat of a fairy tale story. Until you start peeking through what dude had to do to stay there. Huh? Look, this idea that and this is something black people really have to work on. The idea that because you won, we won, yeah. Nah, especially when your politics are crap. Huh? Like that representation politics, but I'm gonna sabotage the masses, I'm gonna get in the way of the masses, I'm gonna shame them. Hey, Mr. Carter. Huh? Yeah, I know the masses of black folks are boycotting Target, but you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sell my album exclusively at Target and then shame the masses of black people for boycotting Target and be like, well, what about Meta? And what about Google? And do you know that Google owns YouTube? Yeah. Ooh, Z. It's frightening to me. It is genuinely I'm not just saying that to say it. When I see folks who are multi millionaires, billionaires, successful, supposedly educated, and they say things and you like, um, you know I'm not dumb, right? Like you're saying that like I didn't know that the parent company is Alphabet and Google and YouTube are under Alphabet. Like, wait, what? Okay, if I didn't know that, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? In other words, what does that have to do with you selling Reasonable Doubt at Target exclusively? Now, Mr. Z wasn't going to buy it anyway, and I'm definitely not going to buy it now. It's not about the album. It's the fact that black people are going one way, and Jay-Z and his insane arrogance. I'm looking at you, Northeastern Xers. In his insane arrogance, said, yeah, I know we going this way, but I'm going to go that way. And who the hell are you? And then try to shame Negroes for it. a minute, bro. You're an entertainer, bro. Jay, you're not some wise sage, bro. You're not Pac, nor will you ever be. Damn, Z, you just burst the dude bubble. And clearly we could see it. You have 30 years and you still ain't Pac. And you proving it to us now. So black people are going one way. Jay said, nah, 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 nah. I'm going to go the other way and go completely against what the masses are doing. And I'm going to try to shame y'all. Like we knew you what type of time you was on with the Kaepernick thing. Now you just rubbing salt in the wound. Huh? And all hell Balamuccio with the assistant. He said, I took the money and flipped it. Yeah, took the money from Negroes and sold out. Huh? Yes, Mr. Z ain't forget about the Barclays Center and the Jay-Z rule that they had to implement because dude owned less than 1% of the stadium. Told all those people how businesses would come through, and he was essentially the face for them white folks to break ground. And then the second everybody got screwed, Jay-Z ain't nowhere to be found. And Compassionate says, Jay is a Mandalorian, an economic Mandalorian. Say that. Huh? True. And Dr. Dizzle says, to be fair to Jay-Z, his behavior is consistent with his lyrics. He's about the money. Okay, look. If you gonna be a shark, then be a whole ass shark, bro. All this attempting to shame Negroes because they look, man, look. I'm just saying, I'm the one, and Yvette said it real as hell, like I'm the one they can't buy. Oh, bro, we saw you in that damn sitting down, looking like a whole ass child, sitting in front of Warren Buffett. We saw you, player. What? Looking like a whole ass child, like you was sitting Indian style in front of Warren Buffett. I can't say Jay sold out. I don't think he ever bought in to sell out. Yeah. I don't think he ever bought in to sell out. There's a conversation to be had by black people about who their air quotes leaders are. And I know that's not what we subscribe to over here in this space, but still. No. And who are these folks that we aspire to be like? No. Yikes. This dude literally dropped a freestyle, literally trying to shame folks for boycotting Target. Weirdo. Oh man. And yeah, that look, a lot of dudes' lines are sorry as hell now because of how he moving. And as Dr. Dizzle said, he told you what he's about. He told you what he was about on Reasonable Doubt, Mr. Z Ramen. Huh? And Adric says, Jay-Z line, Z, get the dirt off your shoulders. All the rappers be hating off the track that I'm making, but all the hustlers, they love it just to see one of us make it. Yeah. Yeah. Yawn. Huh? Exactly. And Dr. Dizzle says, a lot of times we don't accept that the rapper is telling us in his lyrics is the glimpse into who she is. Jay-Z was always rapped about money. As far as I know, no, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Right. So shout out to Gen Z, shout out to the youngest of millennials, but us as millennials and Xers, maybe the youngest of boomers, but definitely for Xers, definitely for Northeastern Xers, and for a lot of millennials, older millennials from especially from the Northeast, but across the country. There's a bit of reverence for Jay because of that Cinderella story, and I will call it what it is, right? With that, what I appreciate is what that young brother said. Yeah, get that out of here. Nobody want to hear that when we watching you. I'm gonna say sell out, but it's really not selling out because he never bought into sell out, and he told you who he was in the beginning, right? So shout out to this young brother for saying what it is, and he is 150% correct. Dude, I'm not gonna say Jay was middle of the road because that's insulting, and he's definitely been above middle of the road. But the impact of Jay-Z, I would argue, and I would love if anybody disagrees with me. You could put it in the comments now in the live comments. You could put it in the comments after the stream. We'll talk about it on a panel discussion, hopefully Sunday, maybe Saturday. But yeah, so Jay has definitely been above middle of the road. I won't do that. With that, the impact, I would argue, comes from just compound interest, time and staying power. Right. We're not going to diss the man, lyricism and his rhyme scheme. It's pretty good, but time, right? And making his moves seem so slick and so nice and overhyping it. Yawn. You're not Teflon Don, bro. Cut it out. Continuing.
Don't nobody give no fuck about what Jay-Z talking about on that damn stage. Jay-Z ain't never been the top dude for real. He was the Triple H of the fucking rap game. Look at Triple H's career in WWE and compare it to Jay-Z's career in rap. When Triple H came into the game, who was the top dudes? Bret and Diesel. When Diesel left, it was Bret and Shawn. By the time he came into his own with DX and the whole game thing, my time! Rock and Austin basically got the business fucking booming. Then everybody else came after him, from Bret and Eddie to Eddie and Benoit. Oops. To Cena and Orton, to Cena and Batista, to Punk and Cena, to Bryan and motherfucking Punk. Then Punk left and nigga Roman was coming into his own. Like, Triple H ain't never been the top dude, just like Jay-Z. When Jay-Z came with the Hawaiian Sophie shit, it was LL and Big Daddy Kane. Ice-T and Ice Cube and certain niggas was still around doing their thing. Then when he was underground right before Reasonable Doubt, Jigga J, Jigga Z, dude, all that bullshit, it was Big and Pac. Then when he dropped and them niggas get killed, it was Mason DMX with Harlem World, and DMX was getting ready to drop Get At Me, dog, because niggas knew X was finna blow. Then he come again with Hard Knock Life in Volume 3 in the Dynasty. Eminem and Nelly them pretty much took shit over, and you had Ja Rule peaking and Ludacris around that time. Then he really got with the Blueprint 1, but by then Nas done smacked his ass across the goddamn room a couple times. Eminem done brought 50 Cent into the fold, which Jay-Z had to warn the whole Rockefeller about 50 Cent, and then retired because he knew niggas was on his ass for real. Came back a couple years later, T.I. and Wayne was running everything, and Kanye was getting ready to peak with Graduation. Then over the years, Wayne brought Drake into the fold. Then Kendrick come into the fold. Then Cole came into the fold. Kanye was still murking shit. This nigga Hove ain't never been that nigga for real, man. Then on top of that, the only reason he able to get in most of them billionaire doors is because his wife is Beyonce. Just like only reason Triple H can get in certain doors is because his wife is Stephanie McMahon and his stepdaddy is Vince McMahon. Them dudes ain't never been them dudes for real, man. Get them goofy ass niggas up out of here.
Hey, one thing the young people gonna do is look at your sacred cows and say, yeah, about that. Hand me that sword. One thing shout out to the youth. One thing the youth gonna do is be like, oh, that's the guy? That's supposed to be the person that get out. You know what? Let me get that sword real quick. Where's the guillotine? Huh? That's one thing the youth gonna do. Wait, that's the ideology I'm supposed to follow? Wait, is that working for me? Oh, it's not? Hey, yo, where's the eraser? Give me a eraser. right? And Compassion and Callous is A1 analysis, ain't it? The comparison is like chef's kiss. Shout out to that brother. The comparison is chef's kiss. Uh, man. Electrician says facts, compassion, and callous. Yo, that comparison is like chef's kiss, right? And Adric says, Z, I'm sensing a little haterade. You know what? I'll take it. I don't actually hate Jay-Z, but I'll take it. I'll take it. Right? Right. The number one player hater, the player hater awards, I'll take it. I want gold medal then. Right? And thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Yeah, no, I definitely think there's something to be said about a certain class of successful black folks. And notable, especially in the public eye, black folks. And like, what do they act as? Right? So that is the question. What do these folks act as concerning black people and white people relations? Huh? Especially concerning Jay-Z and how we've been seeing him move recently. Right? I give people, if y'all don't want to say, during Occupy Wall Street, his commentary was not helpful. Right? I'll give you that. But when we start getting to Kaepernick and how we've seen him move publicly, especially now with Target, my question is, how egregious does it have to be before folks start being like, okay, bro, all right, bro, doing too much? Huh? And Dwayne says, Jay-Z nice, but yeah, A1 analysis, right? Compassionate says, the Stephanie McMahon Beyonce comparison was fatality. You hear me? Right. So there's something to be said once again about, especially for black folks, when there is like this very fuzzy line between our political leaders, and I say that in air quotes, and our entertainers, right? Because there's really not too much of a difference. Ooh, goddamn Z. And when Jay could essentially say with this Target boycott and him selling his album exclusively at Target, essentially Jay told us to get back to work through action, maybe not through words, but through action. Actually, he kind of did say it through words too, but essentially he said, hey, no more Target boycott, get back to work, get back to shopping, huh? Get the stepping, right? I love this comment. And Vegas says, I'm never disappointed with these celebrities because I don't expect them to do the right thing to begin with. Say that. Exactly. Right? Exactly. But with that, we have to appreciate that maybe in spaces like this, we're not so easily swayed, especially for those of us 30 and over, 35 and over, right? But when you're speaking about the under 30s, definitely the under 25s, and especially, as I said, Jay-Z has a great story, minus the D-boy stuff and, the shady stuff and the underhanded stuff and the backstabby stuff and all that other stuff. Anyway, and what was also revealed is Jay's name pops up on that list. Ooh. Not that his name pops up on that list like he was on that island, but his name pops up on that list as the go-between to go get those Negroes to act right. I'm not joking. Jay's name pops up on that list. Not that he was on the island, but as the, it's not token. What's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? But yeah. 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 Oh, Brooklyn's finest. So you ain't gonna like today's stream. You ain't gonna like today's stream. Yeah, I know he from your town. I know. And, and I see I was about to call you Jay. And Brooklyn's finest says the Jay slander is crazy. Look, it's well deserved. And you know it. It's well deserved. Wait, you think we was just gonna see Jay-Z moving the way he was and nobody was even gonna say nothing? You lucky I ain't going in on his looks because we've been doing that for goddamn 4 decades. You're lucky. We've been calling him the same damn camel face for 4 decades. That's why I ain't saying it. It's old and played out. Huh? Man. Oh no. When I say that, and Brooklyn Five says, I agree. He's the buffer, but to say he was never that dude is nasty. The nastiest of work. What I'm saying is, Jay is not for me, and I would argue for the brother that I played earlier, A plus tier, right? A tier, yes. I wouldn't call him B tier because that's an insult. Not C tier, nothing further than that. What I'm saying is he's been able to hold on, and his staying power and his skill. I never taken away, better yet, sorry, from his skill. But I think he's elevated in our consciousness because he's been around for so long. Not just the skill level, because remember what era of hip hop we're talking about that Jay-Z comes out of, right? Remember who his contemporaries are. We're talking about Wu-Tang. We're talking about Big and Pac, right? That's what we're talking about. That's the era. Craig Mack and them. Like this is like funny. We talk about WWE, WWF. This is that era of hip hop. Yeah. Right. So this is LL is still a major name in hip hop. Right. Snoop. This is just like next level era of hip hop that Jay finds himself in when he burst onto the scene. You know? So yeah, it's not. It was a little bit later. It came just a smidge later, like a few years. Well, more than a few years, but a few years later, right? Scarface, exactly. So this is like World War II era hip hop, and so that is the era that he. So the fact that he survived so long is that within itself is a compliment. I'm not going to take that away from him. But I'm saying it elevates him in our consciousness, right? So it takes what I would argue is an A level rapper and makes him A plus, just off of staying power alone, right? Just off of staying power alone. I'm not taking away from his skill or anything like that. What I'm saying is the staying. Oh yeah, Cube, but Cube came out way earlier, right? But still, yeah. Okay, most of it better. A tier is not S tier. Okay, so I'm saying A and A plus. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Yeah. Right. So yeah, and we do know Jay has the most platinum albums of any rapper. For those of you that don't know, Jay-Z has the most platinum albums of it, and he doesn't have the most albums sold. He didn't go as platinum as Eminem on one album, but he has the most platinum albums across his discography, right? So I think he's peaked over 10 platinum albums. If I'm not mistaken, I think Jay-Z has over 10 platinum albums. If I'm not mistaken, I think he did that years ago, right? Yeah. Something like that, right? So we can't take that away from him. But when it comes to this social commentary and his view on things, or at least his public view on things, yeah. Huh? And we could see it in how he moved, right? So that I think the young brother is onto something, and I think this era of hip hop, or not even this era of hip hop, this era of young folks, young millennials and Gen Z, Big L, right? AZ, Nas, like that's the era of Jay Z that we're talking about. That he comes out of. Better yet, right? Buster, like that's the era, and that is a before we even go national, just New York itself. I didn't even, by the way, I didn't say the tri-state area. Just New York itself was insane. That is a different era of hip hop. Then when you include the West Coast, the South was starting to bubble with Goody Mob and Outkast, but it wasn't there yet, right? Like the South was still known, especially down here in South Florida or Florida, we were still known for the Uncle Luke's and the booty shaking music. We weren't Wayne era level. Quite frankly, we weren't even Master P known yet on that level. Um, the Midwest, not so. It was really at that era, really the two regions were West Coast and East Coast, really the Northeast. They say East Coast, but really the Northeast, right? And yeah, no, just New York alone, that was just full on match. Excuse me, full on cage match, and anyone could get it. And all hair Balamucho says Big L was Red Pill too. Yes, he was, and he has multiple songs speaking to that. Huh? Man, Vegas says AZ deserved more shine. I agree. And Compassion says Jay-Z and Beyonce are both soundtracks to neoliberal capitalism. That's it. They're both a product of the environment, not authors. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And on that,
Neoliberalism is a policy model that supports free enterprise, competition, deregulation, and the importance of individual responsibility. The ideology opposes the expansion of government power, state welfare, and inflation. Neoliberalism seeks to minimize government control of industry and boost private sector ownership of businesses. It promotes free market capitalism and the efficient allocation of resources, including its potential dangers to democracy, workers' rights and sovereign nations' right to self-determination. Neoliberal policies center around economic liberalization, including reductions in trade barriers, deregulation of industry, privatization of state-owned enterprises, reductions in government spending, and monetarism.
yeah, I think Compassion is accurate.
What's something people don't know about neoliberalism? It's more than just a buzzword. Let's dive in. Neoliberalism is a political and economic idea that started in the late 20th century. It focuses on free markets, deregulation, and reducing government spending. The idea is that less government control can lead to more economic freedom and growth. Neoliberal thinkers believe that privatizing industries and reducing taxes can boost innovation and efficiency. They argue that competition in the market benefits consumers by providing more choices and better prices. However, critics say that it can increase inequality and hurt public services like education and healthcare. They warn that too much focus on profit can ignore the needs of society. Neoliberalism has shaped policies in many countries around the world. Whether you agree with it or not, it's a major force in today's global economy. So, next time you hear the term, you'll know it's all about free markets and less government. That's neoliberalism in a nutshell.
Yeah. And so that is a little bit of a heads up, shout out to Compassionate and Callous, that I am working. We're gonna finally Z, we're finally gonna get that Power Memo coming to a channel near you. So I'm starting to compile the materials. I'm gonna put them in a separate folder so I can actually find them when I'm looking for them. And we're gonna get to the Power Memo. We're gonna get to the Power Memo. So I'm just compiling the excuse me, the information, and I'm gonna try to like draw that line starting with the Power Memo. I might go a little bit before that and speak about what era the Power Memo is coming from, and then we can work from there. Or he said, please, please, can I have some more? Not the Oliver Twist hands, right? But yeah, so that we can speak about that era coming that creates a Lewis Powell, and then how we end up literally where we are now in the 2020s, right? And I can literally draw a line from the Powell Memo all the way to the gig economy, right? Like that's a straight line. There's a straight line from the Powell Memo to the Telecom Act to Citizens United, like name them, right? There's a straight line from the Powell Memo to even Tim Gurner in Australia talking about. As a matter of fact, Tim Gurner said pretty much the same thing the Powell Memo said. Yeah, we're gonna regulate these. They think they have too much power. Let's show them. Let's show them who's boss. And that Tim Gurner literally said that. So you could draw a line from the Powell Memo right to Tim Gurner, and he don't even live in America. Huh? So tying that to Jay. Shout out to that brother. I'm gonna play it one more again. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. It would be the stream where I'm not talking about the 304s. Well, we don't have that much folks, but I did have people. I can't be mad at anyone because I did have y'all waiting for over a day. My apologies about that. Life was lifing. I kept on pushing the time back. Then I realized that I wasn't going to be able to stream, and then I just made it for the next day, right? And so we're going to play it one more again, and then we're going to move on. Continuing.
Nobody give no fuck about what Jay-Z talking about on that damn stage. Jay-Z ain't never been the top dude for real. He was the Triple H of the fucking rap game. Look at Triple H's career in WWE and compare it to Jay-Z's career in rap. When Triple H came into the game, who was the top dudes? Bret and Diesel. When Diesel left, it was Bret and Shawn. By the time he came into his own with DX and the whole game thing, my time! Rock and Austin basically got the business fucking booming. Then everybody else came after him, from Bret and Eddie to Eddie and Benoit. Oops. To Cena and Orton, to Cena and Batista, to Punk and Cena, to Bryan and motherfucking Punk. Then Punk left and nigga Roman was coming into his own. Like Triple H ain't never been the top dude, just like Jay-Z. When Jay-Z came with the Hawaiian Sophie shit, it was LL and Big Daddy Kane. Ice-T and Ice Cube and certain niggas was still around doing their thing. Then when he was underground right before Reasonable Doubt, Jigga J, Jigga Z, dude, all that bullshit, it was Big and Pac. Then when he dropped and them niggas get killed, it was Mason DMX with Harlem World, and DMX was getting ready to drop Get At Me, dog, because niggas knew X was finna blow. Then he come again with Hard Knock Life in Volume 3 in the Dynasty. Eminem and Nelly them pretty much took shit over, and you had Ja Rule peaking and Ludacris around that time. Then he really got with the Blueprint 1, but by then Nas done smacked his ass across the goddamn room a couple times. Eminem done brought 50 Cent into the fold, which Jay-Z had to warn the whole Rockefeller about 50 Cent, and then retired because he knew niggas was on his ass for real. Came back a couple years later, T.I. and Wayne was running everything, and Kanye was getting ready to peak with Graduation. Then over the years, Wayne brought Drake into the fold. Then Kendrick come into the fold. Then Cole came into the fold. Kanye was still murking shit. This nigga Hove ain't never been that nigga for real, man. Then on top of that, the only reason he able to get in most of them billionaire doors is because his wife is Beyonce. Just like only reason Triple H can get in certain doors is because his wife is Stephanie McMahon and his stepdaddy is Vince McMahon. Them dudes ain't never been them dudes for real, man. Get them goofy ass niggas up out of here.
Look. About the dynasty, and I should have mentioned this earlier. That La Familia production is one of the best goddamn beats in hip hop history, okay? That La Familia, and it only like I've listened to so many freestyles on that goddamn beat. That is one of the best beats ever. Okay? I listen to Cameron and them, Dipset and them freestyle on it. I think, does T.I. have a freestyle? I think T.I. Somebody else. There's a few people in throughout hip hop that have rapped over that. That was phenomenal production. With that, yeah, I can't disagree with the brother too much on Jay. I'm just saying. So, shout out to my Northeasterners, especially my New Yorkers. I ain't gonna go on in on y'all too tough. But there is, in all honesty, in all seriousness, for me, it's not really Jay-Z. It's not Jay. It's what Jay represents with our entertainment class of black folks, and like where we need to part ways from them. Every once in a while, they're going to say something in our interest. It just happens that our interests and their interests converge at the same time. Now, I'm not saying that they're coming from a good faith place. It's all self-interest, and the second they get from whatever the hell, then they'll run off the other way, right? And what you will see, which I would argue is what we see with Jay right now, is that when their interest and our interest are not in alignment because of their platform and because they have a podium, they're going to shame you, insult you, dismiss you if they can't ignore you. And way too many black folks are on this Target boycott thing. So Jay really doesn't have much space to ignore. So now it's about shaming. Right? Now it's about shaming. So we have to be careful. Once again, it's not about Jay. And Adric says, where's Keep It 100 when you need him? Look, y'all better be lucky Toya got her channel taken down once. I Keep It 100. I flamed Jay up front of him a couple years ago. Black Uru might remember. I said, y'all New Yorkers need to jump off Jay-Z's gonads. We'll say, right? I said that, what, 3 years ago? But ask Keep It 100. I said it to him already. Right? I'm not anti-Jay. I want to stress that. I'm a make fun of. I'm a dig. I regional bang. I make fun, but none of that is real serious. The seriousness in this conversation, I'm using Jay-Z as an avatar to ask us, when do you decide to part ways with the entertainers who have been appointed as leaders and not by black people? And that's a real question. Like, that's the serious part of the conversation. When do you part ways with an entertainer who either crowned themselves or have been crowned by the dominant society as a leader? And how egregious do they have to be in their dismissal of the community for you to part ways? And I think this Target fiasco is just so on the nose, right? Like, black people said we're boycotting Target. That's what we said. And Jay-Z was like, see, yeah, about that. Look, look, they made me a deal I can't refuse, y'all. and I'm gonna sell my album exclusively there. So I'm gonna need y'all to shut up. Oh, shut up and buy. Actually, Jay-Z just hits y'all like a goddamn Asian woman in the corner store. Instead of saying hurry up and buy, he said shut up and buy. Ooh, I just want somebody to tell me I'm lying. I just want someone to tell me that I am lying. Huh? Either I'm wrong or I'm right. Did Jay-Z not essentially tell us, especially those that are actively really not going to Target to make any purchases, not doing any online orders, not any pull up to the store, none of it. Pick up orders, none of it. We're not, right? We're not working with Target whatsoever. We're not patronizing Target whatsoever. Did he not just tell them, yeah, about that? See the way this bank account works with the billions in it? Right? And Emerald S says, shame you. Shame on you, I think you meant to say. Insult you. Oh, wait, no, he said it right. Shame you, insult you, and dismiss you. Also, the silent treatment. Act like you're crazy. A big tactic is staying close to those that talk to staying in their ear, so don't be believed. Yeah, yeah. And thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Shout out to Emerald Edge. Look, Jay can't do the silent treatment per se, especially now. He went too far. He couldn't do this. It was too many black folks, right? And I think he went too far with that shaming tactic in that freestyle. Like that's what it was like. Oh, okay, player. All right, look. Now you're gone too far, Biggs. You done went too far, sir. Look, people was giving you the side eye with Kaepernick, but they still give you a pass, right? They gave you the side eye with the picture with you and Warren Buffett, but they gave you a pass. They gave you the side eye with the "my presence is charity" comment, but they gave you a pass. Huh? They gave you the side eye with the now people call me a capitalist, and they came up with that word essentially to block me. They gave you the side eye, but they gave you a pass. Now you didn't went too far with the Target thing, and then make it even worse. Look, everyone, this is what Mr. Z is saying. The Target thing was bad enough. That freestyle, after all that freestyle, now you played in my face. Now you played in my face. The Target thing was bad enough. That just let me know that you didn't care what the masses of black people were saying, right? But then when you tried to shame Negroes with that freestyle, oh, listen here, right? This also begs the question: if you were the one sitting on a couple $100 million, a couple $1 billion, what does your moral compass look like? Do you have one? Do you care? But that's not a question I think I can ask us, because I don't know if any one of us is a billionaire. But do you have morality, or does it change, or is it something that kind of dissipates with the wealth, or did you never have it at all? Or do you convince yourself that this is what's best for black people, or these weirdo activists are doing too much? You know, when Target come to you with that, I don't know, $10 million deal, $50 million deal, do you just say, hey, I know black people want to go this way, but I'm going that way, right? That's the question. Huh? This is what I'm saying. And from Africa Cape says, forget Jay-Z, such an uninteresting person. Him dissing Kaepernick is his shark jump. You know, I posted it in my community tab. I want to say maybe a year and a half ago, maybe a couple years ago. And it's when some more news YouTube channel. They covered wealthy people and like what makes them tick, how their brain operates, their lack of empathy, and all of this. And it's not, this is like real brain science stuff and like social studies and all that stuff, right? And one of the things that happens with wealthy people is that lack of empathy, right? And Jay speaking about Kaepernick like that because it's. I'll say this: when I went from barely making it to being stable, it did change the way I viewed a lot of things, right? I can, but I'm not as high up as Jay-Z, not nowhere close ever. But also because I have like this grounding and because of the type of content I consume, the type of things I listen to and I watch, that didn't change. It kept me grounded and because I like to study people and I like to see how we think and what makes us tick and I appreciate the numbers. Like I know most people don't have money and I know what people make a year on average and all that other good stuff that we talk about on this channel. It kept me grounded. I can only imagine what going from poverty in the hoods of Brooklyn, right? Marcy Projects in the hoods of Brooklyn to being a close confidant and friend, or at least a air quotes friend from what we could see in public, to the president of the United States, right? What that must be like. I'm talking about the Jay-Z Obama relationship for those of us that don't know. What it must be like to have the first lady say she looks up to your wife, right? What it must be like to go from Brooklyn hood to 30 some odd years later, major retail chains are getting in contact with you to fix a PR problem, right? Like I can imagine what that does to your mind, how it distorts your reality. Well, better yet, distorts reality for you because your reality is going from poverty to being at an inauguration for a president, which is insane. You're a special guest for the president of the United States, right? Oh man. And from Africa I came says, just wait until the FD signifier check clears. Z gonna be a brand new out here. Look, y'all forgot I practically turned that check down in front of y'all. I practically turned the check down in front of y'all. Look, Mr. Z could have been flying around here in a Lexus helicopter. I'm joking, and I stole that joke from a comedian. But yeah, no, it look, I really have principles, and oh, do it be kicking me in the ass? Oh, y'all have no idea. Woo. Um, with that, no, I think wherever I go, I'm gonna advocate for black men, and pretty much like this, especially concerning black men's intimate, romantic, sexual relations with women, particularly black women, but with women. And I don't know how big of a check you would have to write me for me to say F them Negroes. I don't know how big that check gonna have to be. Especially in my current state, how I'm living now, right? Could life be a whole lot better for Z? Absolutely. And don't get it twisted with these reckless streams. Z still got things to do when Z has things to do. Look, Z got to make up for that. Don't put it in the comments. My snipers will snipe your ass. Anyway, So don't get it twisted with that. I don't know how many zeros gonna have to be behind that one for Z to sell us out, right? But that's how those things usually go. That's what people say until the person really pull up with the suitcase, right? Until the person really pop the suitcase and be like, "Hey, all this could be yours. Just sign right here and do this thing." Yeah. So, right. Yeah, 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 yeah. Easy to say what you're not gonna do until somebody's sitting right in front of you with the name your price check. The area where you write the numbers in, it's blank, and the person name your price. It's easy to say what you're not gonna do until somebody say name your price, and they mean it, and they mean it. Oh, right. And Brooklyn Finance says your analysis is fair, Z, but the dude is on all the drugs. I never heard that term before. I'm gonna use that. All the drugs. Exactly, Adrian. An offer you can't refuse. Exactly. Either you gonna name your price, or you ain't gonna make it out this office alive. Huh? Oh man. Yeah. So, okay. On that, we got that out the way. Continue.
Savings being defined as the sum of money in all of your transactional accounts. So think your checking account, savings account, high yield savings account, money market account, or brokerage cash account. For additional context, I'll also be sharing the median savings by age because I believe that is the more relevant comparison. But to start with the younger generation, those under the age of 35, median savings of $5,400 and an average savings of $20,540. Moving on to ages 35 to 44, median savings of $7,500 and an average savings of $41,540. 45 to 54, median savings of $8,700 and an average savings of $71,130. Finally, the older generation, ages 55 to 64, median savings of $8,000 and an average savings of $72,000.
Ah, we broke, boss. We ain't got no money. Look, this is when we take every penny, when we liquidate your life, when we're digging through the couch to see where the hell you hiding the money at. And what he's reporting is your median and your average, which obviously the average gets pulled up because of the people that are doing well. He's saying when we count everything, your Roth IRA, what your home is worth, what the car is worth, what the couch is worth. When we dig through everything, we in your ashtray checking to see if we can find any quarters in there, right? We checking underneath your mattress. We all in the dresser drawers, your nightstand. We flipping you upside down, shaking you to see if anything fall out your pockets. And as a generation, or as an age cohort, better yet, $7,500. Ooh. Yeah. You gotta love it. These are the conversations. In knowing this, why I love numbers. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't have the discipline to be an economist. I just don't. But I love knowing what people make and what people have in savings and what the median income is and the average salary and what the average home price is and what the average age of the first time home buyer, etc. I love that type of stuff because it puts in the context what people are actually living. Not what we see on TV, not what the ladies see on them fake ass reality TV shows, right? Not what you're hearing on the radio, right? Not what you see in a music video, all up in the video. Shout out to Suge Knight, right? No, what the reality is. Oh, I've been saying I'm a pocket watcher. I am waffles. You forgot? I've been saying that about myself forever. I know how much friends make, other coworkers make, and it's not from a place of jealousy or envy or whatever. I'm a definite pocket watcher. Uh-huh. I know how much my ex made. All of that good stuff, right? Yeah, you better believe it. I'm a pocket. Duh. I don't even know why that's an insult. I'm not saying you're saying it as an insult, but it's been used as an insult. And shout out to I'm Waffles who says ZB pocket watching. You damn right. Huh? Saint Cyr says pocket watching is healthy speculation. You hear me? And I'm Waffles says, get your hands out my pocket, ninja, get money. Exactly. That sounds like a rapper for real. Right? Oh man. Yeah, and Adric says Mr. Z is the original JT pocket watching with JT. Yeah, look, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna try to bum $20 off of you, right? But I think it is healthy to know these things. And even for those of us, some of us have these type of jobs, or we're in a career where they don't like the coworkers discussing how much each other makes, and I could understand why from the employer's point of view. I don't need you knowing that I got him doing less work and he make 20% more than you do. I don't need you knowing that, right? I don't need y'all being in discussion. He was like, "Oh, you only made 53 last year? Oh, no, I made 65 last year. Wait, what? From the employer's point of view, I could definitely understand it. But from the employee, which the majority of us are, somebody might be getting cheated. You definitely getting cheated. Huh? You see me pocket watching with Z. I would use that title, but I don't want to steal that or use that after JT done used it. Yeah. I don't want to. Yeah. He definitely got. That's a genius. It's simple. Pocket watching with JT. That's simple. It's such a nice name, right? If I could remember them, yes. And from Africa I came says Z does the social math on all metrics. But this is the thing with that. It is so sobering. It is so sobering, right? And when you're having conversations with folks, you'll see them dismiss this. You'll see them minimize it. You'll see them essentially, especially with Black folks, do their version of those are the white man's numbers, right? That's when they start talking about street culture and who got money that you don't know about and who's hiding money under a mattress or in a shoebox and yawn, right? But yeah, the social math and the met, I love it. Oh, I love it. I just don't have. I would much rather go to goddamn law school, finish my bachelor's, go to law school, than become an economist. I just can't do it. Or demographer, which but I really like demography. Now that is Z all day, right? It's just you ain't really saying nothing until you get a PhD though, for real. And the research, right? Oh man, for real. Exactly. From Africa cases, got money hidden in the big back TV in the garage. You hear me? That's how people speak when you speak to them about the realities of the situation. And by the way, that may be the case for one of our uncles who used to be in the streets back in the 90s, and he still got a couple of dollars stored away somewhere. And he did get caught up. He did serve jail time, but It wasn't nothing too crazy, and his baby mama didn't take all the money, or his mama didn't take all the money. Yeah, right, right. And he came back to a couple dollars. Shout out to Gucci Man, right? Where, but that's not the case for like anyone practically, right? I am Waffles. That is the question. I'm Waffles says, what type of law would you practice? That is the question, right? I would consider being a defense attorney for black men. I can't get into corporate law because I would feel too much of a hypocrite. Unless I was like, what's homegirl name that was under the Biden administration and she was breaking up them goddamn corporations? Somebody gonna know her name. Y'all know her name is right there. I want to say she's South Asian descent. Her name, her face is right there. But Victoria Lulu keep on popping up in my mind instead of me saying this lady name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Somebody's gonna say her name in the comments, please and thank you. I can't remember the lady name. That was acting as not Labor Say. Oh my god, I forgot. I even forgot what her damn title is. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Anyway, somebody gonna say it in the comments. Shout out to Replay Gang. But her name just slipped my mind. But yeah, the that was one of the first things Trump did, get rid of her ass. Right. So yeah, no, if I could, that's the type of time I would be on. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm Waffle says them corporate law folks getting like 400K. And I was like, damn, law school, too much reading for me though. I have a sibling that went to law school, so yeah, and graduated. So yeah, it is a lot of reading. It is a lot, and it's a whole different language. She didn't believe me when I used to say legalese until she actually applied before she got in. When she took the LSAT, and she was like, "Oh, that's a real thing." Z, I was like, "What, you thought I was making that up? Legalese is a real thing." Right? But yeah, I'm proud of her. Yeah, she done graduated law school and everything. Yeah. Shout out to younger sister Z. Right? But we gonna play that one more again because if y'all want to know when Mr. Z is not consuming red pill content, manosphere or black manosphere content, male advocacy content, right? And we're not, to be fair, Mr. Z watches some entertaining things, but what I also find entertaining is just listening to a Scott Galloway lecture or interview with Dr. Richard Reeves, especially when he was doing his tour for Dream Hoarders. That was years and years and years ago at this point. But yeah, Richard Wolff, Peter Zien, John Mearsheimer. I haven't really been listening to too much Yuval Noah Harari because he's small hat, and then the whole thing with Iran and that little slice of Europe and the Middle East. And so I'm there are people you can listen to for everything except this one thing, because they're too close to that one thing and they have too much vested interest in a particular outcome. So you can't listen to them for that. Right. So yeah, but yeah, these are the type of things I listen to, and the type of people I listen to also. And if I see a new person on one of these things and I'm like, oh, I like what this person's saying, I'll see what else they have to interview. Yeah, there's a bunch of folks that I'm thinking of. I'm obviously I watch Breonna Joy Gray interviews. Shout out to AB Media. I still listen to a little bit of Sabi Sabs, the white dude, Doom Scroll, stuff like that. I still try to keep up on my leftist stuff. So yeah. Right. No, not Loretta Lynch. Not Loretta Lynch. Okay, you know what? We're gonna look it up right now. Give me a second, y'all. Give me a second. We're gonna look that. I'm gonna put y'all on brief hold. So we're gonna pause right here real quick because I gotta get this lady's name. Because I said it and now I gotta get it. Y'all give me a second. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. found it, y'all. Lena Khan. God damn, I couldn't get that out for the love of God. Lena Khan. I want to say that's her name. Let's make sure. Wait a minute. Yeah, I think that's her. Yeah, I think that's her. I think that's her. Because so I even forgot what position she was in, but I remember that she was part of Magdani's transition team. And so that's how I had to look for it. That's why it took so long. My apologies, everyone. Right. My apologies. And let's make sure once again. Wait a minute. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, Lena Khan. Lena Khan. Can't believe I forgot her name. Um, and yeah, so if I was to go to law school, that would probably try to be, yeah. Look, if you ain't walking the raggedy edge where they considering deleting you, are you really living? Look, this Z guy, could he get into a freak accident? Could we look? This man knows where the goddamn bodies are buried. Uh, so yeah, to answer that question, I know it took forever, but yeah, there you go. And thank you for that. And Brooklyn Spider says, Z, I view you as Spider-Man in this space. You're not cosmic level, but when the world needs saving, it ain't team if Z is not there. Yeah. If you're not there, Z. Yeah. And thank you, sir. Thank you. You're a scholar and a gentleman. But yeah, so we're gonna play this again, and I'm gonna play something else that kind of connects to. As a matter of fact, I got like 4 videos back to back that I could play to go with this. But we're gonna play it again. I'm gonna play something else after that. Continuing, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And on today's stream, right, we're not really talking about the 304s. We're talking political, social stuff, and money, and what we're doing with our life. And I just started off with the most incendiary thing with Jay-Z because it was funny. And continuing.
Average savings by age. Savings being defined as the sum of money in all of your transactional accounts. So think your checking account, savings account, high yield savings account, money market account, or brokerage cash account. For additional context, I'll also be sharing the median savings by age because I believe that is the more relevant comparison. But to start with the younger generation, those under the age of 35, median savings of $5,400 and an average savings of $20,540. Moving on to ages 35 to 44, median savings of $7,500 and an average savings of $41,540. 45 to 54. Median savings of $8,700 and an average savings of $71,130. Finally, the older generation, ages 55 to 64, median savings of $8,000 and an average savings of $72,000.
Y'all notice that no age group had a median savings? That's the real savings, barely, of $10,000 or more. No age group had 10,000 or more in savings. We're not talking about that average number. And remember, this is all your money combined. This is every penny that we could find, the penny that's under the rug, all of that. This is everything. As I said, the money in your ashtray, huh? The couple quarters you keep in your cup holder in your car. This is everything, and none of us had $10,000. Huh? When I say these things, and we're slowly working to the Powell memo in the fallout over the past few decades of the Powell memo. It's a system that made a decision. It is politicians, technocrats, economists, right, that made a decision decades ago, right? When the boomers were young, The Xers weren't born yet. The millennials weren't even a thought yet. And Gen Z, what's that? The supposed leaders of this nation made a decision that we all have to live with now. Where wealth got vacuumed up to the top, and now your median savings isn't even $10,000. Many of us have our homes. Some of us have, we have a house. Some of us have a house. Can you afford for that roof to go out right now? So we already know 40% of Americans can afford a $500 emergency. 60% of Americans can afford a $1,000 emergency. So we don't even got to talk about that goddamn $15,000 is going to cost you to replace that roof, or the $600 to replace all 4 tires on your car. I had to do it, what, maybe 9 or so months ago. Mr. Z had to replace all of his tires. And that set me back a pretty penny. Right? So if none of us has an age cohort, that doesn't mean you don't have $10,000 in savings. That does mean that in your age cohort, they don't. Right? Or they're going to have to pull from this pit, this or that. Right? See what I'm saying? I Am Waffle says, just dropped $400 on an oil leak, shaking my head. Huh? I Am Waffles. I'll give y'all a little personal on Mr. Z. I have a power steering leak. Huh? It's not the worst thing in the world, power steering leak. Guess what? I've had the power steering pump. I purchased the new one already. But y'all know Mr. Z and life be lifing. I've been sitting on that goddamn power steering pump for over a month, easily a month and a half, and haven't bought it to the mechanic to put that in for me. Pause. Right? I'm not even going to tell you how much the power steering pump was. Let's just say it was more than 2 times what you're talking about. For the power steering pump. That's what you get for trying to buy something exclusive, Z. You're right. My car is definitely not that exclusive, but still. On a side note, car talk. Shout out to Trail Bentley. Some of these cars y'all see on the road that you think aren't as rare as they actually are, because they weren't that expensive when they came out, are a bit more rare than you think. Especially at certain trim levels. Certain trim levels of car are way more rare than you think they are. No? And so when a part needs to be replaced, it may not be the price of the part, but the rarity of the part. And sometimes it is the price of the part because of how rare it is. Right? Oh man. Give you another prime example. Y'all, for all of the folks that remember when Mr. Z was looking for a new car, it wasn't really a new car. I didn't want a new car. But the only new car I really wanted was the Q50 Red Sport 400 all-wheel drive, right? In a specific color, the blue, with a specific interior color, that creamish whitish. And that's a $65,000 car. New? Nope. I'll see you in the used car market. Anyway, I was considering the Nismo Juke RS. No, Z, not you. That's a chick car, Z. I hear y'all. Believe it or not, yeah, y'all see Jukes all over the place. They're funky looking and weird, right? The Juke Nismo is rare as hell. The Juke Nismo RS is even more rare, right? They only made a couple thousand of those. If I would have bought that car, it would have been affordable. And most of the parts, for the most part, when they break, they would have been somewhat affordable. But finding it is the problem, right? So even for the power steering pump, when mine went out, I had to wait a week when I finally put the money down to get the power steering pump, because I couldn't just get it from AutoZone or any type of spot, right? Discount auto parts or anything like that. That just goes to show you, right? And Gimmo says, I think I compare him to Daredevil. What makes you compare me to Daredevils? Right? And I'm also says, I'm gonna push this O2 Accord until I get at least 300k miles. I'm at 220 right now. Look, anyone who's not a car enthusiast, or even if you are, but you have your toy in the garage somewhere, or you working on it, or you having whoever you have working on it, and then you have a daily. Anyone who's not into cars, there's no reason to buy expensive stuff, and there's definitely no reason to be flipping cars out every 4 or 5 years. Especially if you have something reliable, like what you're saying, your Accord, there is no reason, right? Especially if the car is not rusted out, it's not squeaking, it's not embarrassing, man, ride that thing until the wheels fall off, right? So when it comes to yes, Mr. Z is a automobile enthusiast, but Mr. Z is not about telling folks to be switching out their cars. And think of it, we're talking about things that cost tens of thousands of dollars, huh? You buy a used car for 15, 20,000, you buy or 25,000, 30,000, then we start getting into new cars, 28, 30, 40, 50 plus thousand, 60, 70, $80,000, right? Oh man. So let's continue. So once again, every age cohort, not even $10,000. We're gonna play one more again and then move on to the next video. Not even $10,000 in savings. That means if we liquidate everything in your life, if we took everything in your life and wrote you a check for what you have in savings, where we digged it everywhere, that clump of hair with a couple of pennies in it in the corner over there, right? If we dig through every crevice of your home and we wrote you a check, it wouldn't be even $10,000. And that shows you, and I don't think it's a coincidence that for the longest pre-social media and the internet, most people didn't know nothing about what people made, what people's average salary was, what people had in savings. I don't think that's by accident at all. You were never supposed to know. You were never supposed to know. You were supposed to think it was you that didn't have, that you made some insane financial decision. And you might have. It might be your fault. But it ain't your fault at the scale of tens of millions of Americans. Continuing.
Average savings by age. Savings being defined as the sum of money in all of your transactional accounts. So think your checking account, savings account, high yield savings account, money market account, or brokerage cash account. For additional context, I'll also be sharing the median savings by age because I believe that is the more relevant comparison. But to start with the younger generation, those under the age of 35, median savings of $5,400 and an average savings of $20,540. Moving on to ages 35 to 44, median savings of $7,500 and an average savings of $41,540. 45 to 54. Median savings of $8,700 and an average savings of $71,130. Finally, the older generation, ages 55 to 64, median savings of $8,000 and an average savings of $72,000.
Last thing on this, look at the huge gap between median savings and average savings. That lets you know the wealthy or the well-to-do are pulling that number all the way up. When you have a median savings in an age cohort of $8,000 and then the average is $72,000, that is an insane gap. That means whoever really have money in savings, we're talking about real money, they don't have no little $2,000-$3,000 in savings. You're talking about people who average and saving probably 50 plus, 75, $150,000 somewhere. The median is $8,000 and the average is 72,000. Woo! Yeah, that's saying something, right? That is saying something. That is insane, right? Continuing, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat.
So here's a prediction. I think there's going to be a retail crash. I think there's a giant retail bubble right now for crap that was never worth it, that has absolutely skyrocketed in price. And for some reason, people have bought into it and allowed that to happen. But I think more and more people will start to realize that this stuff was never worth it to begin with, and they are going to stop buying into it. And just a few examples of this: those cheap workout sets that are made out of polyester and spandex and that they're charging upwards of $100 a piece for. Those bathing suits that are like 3 threads of fabric that they're charging over $100 to $200 for 1 or 2 pieces for. Coffees and lattes. It's just getting so wild that it's just going to become unsustainable. Skincare, makeup. And we know that their margins are outrageous because their profits are outrageous. These companies are just exponentially increasing their profits year after year by exponentially increasing the prices on these garbage things that they're selling us. And when this crash happens, these companies are going to be forced to bring down the price or go out of business. I also predict that there's going to be a new crop of companies that are mid-priced, like average priced, where it's not super cheap and it's not super expensive, but they still offer trendy quality items. And these are the type of businesses that will start taking it away from these bigger corporations. I feel like it's already happening slowly. It's definitely happened to me. I refuse to buy into any of these things. But it's going to take some time, and it's going to become unsustainable at some point. It has to happen.
I would say to the young lady, it's unsustainable now. We're going off of the last bit of fumes in the goddamn gas tank. Huh? The gas been out. You are chucking along and the car's starting to stutter. Say it better, Z. The car been stuttering. Now it's just momentum. Huh? And I Am Waffle says, look like it ain't gonna be no women of leisure out here. You hear me? The retail crash the young lady is speaking about, well, we already see that happening with restaurants, right? These kind of fast casual restaurants. Look, I'm not going to blame any particular generation. What I will say is, what did we think was going to happen when we saw that millennials and then now Gen Z were not going to have any money? When your entire system, including the social interactions, including the XXX fund from your young folks, was built off of money. Can't have retail therapy if we're not in the retail store because we don't have no money. So yeah, there's going to be a retail apocalypse. You have a couple generations of folks that don't have anything. in an insanely financialized society with a couple of generations that were told to find their humanity through things, through baubles, through consumerism. And we're here now. So if there's going to be a retail collapse, yeah, no, I agree with it. I'm waffles. Look like ain't gonna be no women of leisure, right? Huh. So and L's Active says, I doubt they lower the prices. A WEC World Economic Forum says roaches are tasty and packed with protein. Look, and low key, they really did actually say that. High key, um, hey, Els, when I saw that, I was like, this is a joke, right? Like, okay, for especially for pretty much around Z's age and older. Y'all remember we used to see like the weirdo uncles talk about this, or like the conspiracy theorists at the barbershop in the 90s, in the early 2000s. They used to talk, hey, I'm telling you, this is how the elite talk. And it was like a whole conspiracy theory that the wealthy were like these evil muhaha people, and they really thought of us as useless eaters. Like some of us knew that they didn't care about us. You knew that they would roll you over if you were in the way of their Rolls Royce. Like you knew that. You didn't know that they got off on it though. You didn't know that. You might have suspected it, but you didn't know it, right? You might have suspected that if it shits the fan, they're gonna be still eating turkey and beef and chicken and pork, and you would be eating the roaches. Like you knew if it shit the fan, y'all wouldn't all be struggling. Clearly, we know this, right? But you didn't know that they were actively planning on directing the world a certain way so that you would be eating the roaches. Huh? These folks are in their forums literally saying, you will own nothing, you will be happy. Hey, look, the roaches is packed with protein. Huh? When I said degrowth, and I've been saying that for a little while now, this is what I'm speaking of. Right? Oh man. Yeah, I did notice that. And Getmo says, notice everything she said was part of the she economy. Huh? And that's why I Am Waffles comes in and he says, looks like ain't gonna be no woman of leisure out here. Exactly. And I suspect the women split in two major groups. The women who, even if they don't have their mind right, they're gonna pretend like they have their mind right because the struggle is so real. Right? And then you're gonna have the ones I think their psyches are gonna crack and they are going to go insane. And now their full hypergamy is gonna have even more, it's gonna be even worse. It's gonna be packed with even more steroids. Huh? Especially for youngest of Xers and millennials, who the entire goal of their life was either the power couple thing or the hypergamy thing. And now they're being faced with, I'm not going to be able to live that. There's not going to be a Prince Charming that buys me out of the struggle. Oh, no, their psyche's going to be cracking all over the place. Huh? Oh, man. And Managing Life's Risks is Bill Gates pushed impossible meat. That's funny. Bill Gates pushed impossible meat all while buying up cattle ranches. You hear me? But for all of those folks that used to think that people like Z were some weirdo conspiracy theorists, I can't even say what now because I'm on the ship with you. As a matter of fact, I still could say what now, but I'm on the ship with you. Huh? Oh man. And so these are the things that we were talking about for the past few years, for the past couple decades. This system was not sustainable. You can't have your young folks having children in families when you price them out of having children in families. Either you care about it or you don't. Either you're going to do something to create an environment for your young folks to couple up or you won't. And so we have a bunch of young folks who are watching what they feel is their opportunities evaporate. Your young women don't want to have kids. Your young men don't want to be around your young women. Well, damn. You created a system where your young folks were supposed to find their humanity through things, through consumerism. And even that, they're being priced out of. And you don't think that's going to have a insane social ramifications, political ramifications in your society? I'll bring up China again. You see China put a kibosh to all that showing off stuff online and opening $5,000 and $10,000 material goods, bags and shoes and whatnot. America, on the other hand, said, "Nah, we're gonna use that as a motivation to keep these men working themselves to death to buy a woman a bag, so she could give him some reluctant Gawk 3000." Well, damn. Continuing.
So here's a prediction. I think there's going to be a retail crash. I think there's a giant retail bubble right now for crap that was never worth it, that has absolutely skyrocketed in price. And for some reason, people have bought into it and allowed that to happen. But I think more and more people will start to realize that this stuff was never worth it to begin with, and they are going to stop buying into it. And just a few examples of this: those cheap workout sets that are made out of polyester and spandex and that they're charging upwards of $100 a piece for. Those bathing suits that are like 3 threads of fabric that they're charging over 100 to 200 for 1 or 2 pieces for. Coffees and lattes. It's just getting so wild that it's just going to become unsustainable. Skincare, makeup. And we know that their margins are outrageous because their profits are outrageous. These companies are just exponentially increasing their profits year after year by exponentially increasing the prices on these garbage things that they're selling us. And when this crash happens, these companies are going to be forced to bring down the price or go out of business. I also predict that there's going to be a new crop of companies that are mid-priced, like average priced, where it's not super cheap and it's not super expensive, but they still offer trendy quality items. And these are the type of businesses that will start taking it away from these bigger corporations. I feel like it's already happening slowly. It's definitely happened to me. I refuse to buy into any of these things. But it's going to take some time, and it's going to become unsustainable at some point. It has to happen.
Oh man. And Gitmo says, shout out to the pyramid schemes like Mary Kay and Avon. Hysterical. And Gitmo also says, hey lady, tell that to the women who blew up their marriages, long-term relationships, and who even blew up dates, only to find out the ish that they were buying was worthless. You imagine? Your man telling you, no, we got to save. Or your man telling you, you going out again to go shopping? Or your man telling you, why we got all these goddamn Amazon packages and stuff coming to the house? Or your man telling you, going to the mall again? And it gets annoying to you and more annoying to you. And you eventually use that to leave him or to break up with him or whatever the hell. Fast forward, now you don't even have the disposable income, or you do have this disposable income, it's just that everything became impossibly unaffordable for you to engage in that anymore. Not to mention your crap credit score, not to mention the debt that you definitely got in to engage in this. We can't call it retail therapy. What are we going to call it? Retail delusion? Running from oneself in the malls, right? Hiding from oneself in the stores or by online shopping, etc., right? Yeah. And L's active says, and L says, I reckon Disney knew this outcome when they were selling upper middle class lifestyle to girls. Yeah, they knew.
If this struck you as unusual when you were watching the series, that's because it was. In scholar Richard Bush's study of 262 so-called domestic situation comedies from 1946 to 1990 at least, he found that just 11% featured heads of household who were working class, i.e. doing blue-collar, clerical, or service work. Malcolm's father, and future drug lord as you may remember, plays a low-level clerical worker. This is despite the fact that most American workers qualify as working class. Back in 1976, scholars Gerbner and Gross addressed this still relevant trend, calling the exclusion of working class families from television a symbolic annihilation of America's economic realities. The problem is especially bad on children's television, where a scant 2% of characters are depicted as working class. Now, this isn't exactly a coincidence. Showing stable middle and upper class families is good for business, especially if you're making a family-friendly sitcom. And the reason is simple: commercials. According to scholars Zieglinde Lemke and Wibke Schneiderman, as a form of mass entertainment financed by selling commercials to middle-class consumers, it seems logical that the predominant mode of representing class presupposes middle-class normativity. That is to say, watching the kids' skins stick to the seat in a rundown car with a broken radiator doesn't exactly put you in the mood to splurge on that cool new vacuum cleaner or a fancy bottle of cologne. In comparison, watching the Huxtables hang out in a brownstone while modeling yet another sick sweater from a seemingly endless pile brings viewers a sense of economic plenty that they might not feel in their day-to-day lives. Now, obviously, Malcolm in the Middle wasn't the first show to peddle an economic angst.
I'll tell you what they're going to pay you. They're going to pay you what all jobs pay. Less than you're worth and just enough to keep you crawling back for more.
We saw this as far back as the 50s with the Honeymooners, while the mid-70s brought Laverne and Shirley, and the late 80s saw the debut of America's most famous working-class family on Roseanne. But for anyone with enough business savvy, it just didn't seem financially smart to make a family or children's show about bringing your leftover egg breakfast to school for lunch.
What do you have? Leftover eggs from breakfast?
Which brings us to Disney. In a moment, that is. First, we have to look at 1980, when a broad cultural phenomenon began, the Reagan-era loosening of restrictions on entertainment regulations, including advertising during children's television programming. Now, after a major 70s-era crackdown on advertising to kids, you could only show a limited amount of commercials during children's programming, and were also required to produce educational and informative content for kids. When President Reagan and co. had essentially signed or vetoed all that away by 1984, things changed rapidly. A year after regulation, all of the top 10 best-selling toys had their own TV show. While child-centric product placement had occurred during television's early days, that was really no comparison to this new reality. The insane proliferation of TV character-aligned merchandising was dubbed the Strawberry Shortcake Strategy by Tom Engelhardt. That's thanks to the 1980 show's explosions of licensed dolls, video games, stickers, lunchboxes, and so on. And that reliance on branding would continue to increase from the 90s and on, as corporations realized what a valuable consumer demographic children could be. And though a 1990 congressional bill had reinstated some restrictions on such advertising, the industry had been changed forever. Increasingly, merchandising centered on children's television characters began blurring the line between consuming entertainment and just plain consumerism. And we're not trying to demonize your favorite Lizzie McGuire lunchbox. It's just a little weird. Which is why families like Malcolm in the Middle aren't the norm for places like the Disney Channel. While they didn't start making original live-action shows until the late 90s, they came in hard, quickly crafting what journalists Julia Borston and Alinda Wheat call a tween machine, in which pre-teenagers, and in this case primarily girls, were targeted through lifestyle marketing like the world had never seen. As scholar Morgan Genevieve Blue notes, the marketing was part and parcel with the programming decisions themselves, explaining that Disney Channel personnel worked closely with Disney Consumer Products and Disney Music Group to extend the network's fictional narratives across a variety of media and merchandise for tween girls. This was in order to effectively basically creep into the lives and life spaces of kids beyond the TV network. And that's according to a presentation given by President and CCO of Disney branded television, Gary Marsh himself. And the way they did it, mostly through appeals to girl consumers. As Blue explains, characters like Hannah Montana promote representations of aspirational celebrity and teen life via fashion and dress-up and musical performances. And this way, according to Blue, franchisable girl star personae both reflects and perpetuates a neoliberal turn in the United States, which privileges a performative and celebrity-oriented form of girlhood as the contemporary ideal, i.e. a girl who has all the products she needs to look and behave a certain way. In the aughts, this often took the form of sparkly clothes, as best seen in Disney's unprecedentedly large expansion into Walmart stores with clothing and lifestyle lines specifically marketed to middle and working class girls. And by 2014, Disney was racking in $3.99 billion of revenue in consumer products alone, driven largely by Disney Channel merchandise. The franchise element of the Disney Channel explains why programmers need to make shows about securely middle-class families. Doing so both doesn't alienate working-class viewers, while also painting a fantasy of magical middle-classdom where money is never a problem and consumption is a high priority. That is to say, the family on Waverly Place may run a humble sandwich shop, but their apartment sure doesn't look that way. As Blue puts it, Disney's texts, products, and promotions may allay anxieties over vast systematic inequalities, in large part by painting an image of a world where families aren't struggling to make ends meet. This, of course, requires ignoring reality, like the fact that 14.4% of American children were growing up below the poverty line as of 2019.
I actually am worried about the future because I just want us to be good and don't have to worry about how we're going to get the next thing or how we're going to get food.
Of course, it's not just Disney and it's not just tween girls being targeted. Cartoon shows like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and The Smurfs were extended through a huge amount of licensed merchandising tie-ins, ranging from films to comics and books to computer games. Scholar Marcia Kinder observed back in 1991 that this transmedia intertextuality effectively eliminates any distinction between the original text, i.e. the show, and the spin-off text and commodities that bank on the show's success, which may be a large reason why children's and family television typically finds its comfort zone in middle to upper middle class bliss, where the biggest problem is your family photo shoot coming out squeaky clean. And there's nothing wrong with that. We love these shows, but it does present a skewed perspective of what American life is like. As Stile Sakira and Larry Osimovic, television serves as a tool that continues to mold the public consciousness, in part by fostering a single-minded interpretation of superficial symbolism as an indicator of status and quality. That is to say, by basically suggesting that the right house, the right toy, or the right sparkly outfit can bring you happiness and cement your status as happily middle class, TV reinforces a materialistic status quo. No.
A materialistic status quo. Good time to read this. And Gitmo says retail dopamine is starting to deflate. The entire society, especially in America, especially, was premised on this false premise of infinite growth. Of infinite growth. The line is just going to keep on going up and to the right, up and to the right, up and to the right. If you think your growth is just going to continue, yeah, you're going to have every once in a while, you're going to dip down and dip up, but generally speaking, it's just going to keep on going up and to the right. And this false premise of upward mobility forever. And yeah, you're going to have down days, maybe even a down season. That was bound to fail. Now, when you have people that come up in a society that doesn't only tell them, but in many ways show them, at least in the time, this idea of infinite growth, well, you end up here. So what happens? Not when your dopamine receptors, they stay spiked. What happens when you don't bounce up and down off of that pause, but now you're just going straight down? What happens then? And I would argue you're seeing that with Gen Z and the doomerism, with even some of the millennials and the doomerism. So even if Gen Z wasn't here for some of the best parts of this idea of infinite growth, especially during that Clinton era, right? For some of us millennials, we were children, but we remember that. Xers remember that. Boomers definitely remember that. That Reagan era Morning in America. This idea of just, especially shout out to Francis Fukuyama, that in the history, America won the ideological war. The West, white people, won the ideological war. Liberalism won, not neoliberalism, but open, free market, free trade, free exchange of ideas, and it won the ideological debate. Yeah, you're going to have some socialist states, but the communist states, especially when China said, okay, we're going to have these different regions of our country when we allow capitalism to thrive, and then you watch China blow up. And the US was able to move China away from the Soviet Union with Nixon and Kissinger. That was in the 70s going into the 80s, but either way, when you get Francis Fukuyama saying it's the end of history, I've said this before, right? The Xers that are coming of age, the boomers that are of age, or that's setting a foundation that there's no more debate. The debate is over. We're on the right side of history. And the only real ideological rival just fell. The Warsaw Pact is defunct. It's done. There is no more Soviet Union. There's Russia. There's Ukraine, right? There's all of these other, and I slipped up on a bunch of other nations that was a part of the Soviet Union, but the Kazakhstans and all these other nations that was supposedly that were part of the Soviet Union now are their own states. The US, on the other hand, is still intact. The Europeans are still thriving. We won. You fast forward 30 some odd years later. Uh-oh. Huh? What happens when you win the game and then you reach the final destination? You reach the market cap of your ideology because you no longer have an opposing force pushing on you, pushing you back. You no longer have that resistance. What happens when you're able to go all the way? Huh? And L says, and I'll definitely want to check that out. And L says, I got an interesting vid saved on Threads of a lady breaking down Gen Z's philosophical outlook on life is rooted in what's that, absurdism, and I can't unsee it now. Okay, I'll definitely. And he said, I'm gonna email it later. Okay. All right, yeah, I definitely want to check that out. Yeah. So that, going back to what Mo was saying about retail dopamine is starting to deflate. Yeah, because it was built off of a false premise of upward mobility forever. And most of human history was not upward mobility. And we took for granted in the West and in America, I'm talking about us in general, not maybe us as individuals, that this was sustainable forever. And so, yeah, some people are going to get some rude awakenings. Continuing, talking about that, continuing.
They're in their 20s, and they've never had real jobs, and they're complaining things are expensive. Yes, things are expensive when you don't have a real job.
That's right.
Do you think that's getting traction, complaining?
Unfortunately, I do, because this generation, my generation, I hate to say it, Gen Z and those younger than me have been raised with just silver spoons in their mouth, just getting everything handed to them.
You two are so wrong. In the past.
Let me pause right there. I'm going to play the whole thing. Look, these generational traders, dear Gen Z, Don't fret because we had them as millennials also. Xers had them also. These generational traders are the worst. They look at the plight of their age cohort in majority and then sell them out to the elders and say, no. The problem isn't the world that y'all created or the world that y'all are helping to uphold. The problem is my age group just doesn't want to work. Huh? Another white blonde talking crap. Oh, Fox News love their white blondes. They love their white blondes selling everybody out. Short skirt, short dress, showing off the legs, white blondes. Interchangeable as hell. We've been watching what, four generations of this now on Fox News? Thank you. And Saint Sir says, just shilling for the elders. You hear me? The olders. Shilling for the olders. Oh, man. It's always one of these weirdos, usually white folks, selling everybody out in the generation. Yeah, my generation, the problem is we don't want to work. And shout out to dude. What's dude's name again? Bro, you ain't never going to be Bill O'Reilly, bro, or Tucker Carlson. Get out of here. You're not going to be Bill O'Reilly or Tucker. What's his name? Jesse? That's not Jesse Waters? No, that's not him. What's his name again from Fox News? Yawn. The least interesting one of those guys from that time slot. You're not even Sean Hannity, bro. You're not even Sean Hannity. I remember watching some of his clips when he would do the Man on the Street interviews and harass people. Huh? Saint Cyr says a lot of them aren't natural blondes. Right? Continuing.
They're in their 20s, and they've never had real jobs, and they're complaining things are expensive. Yes, things are expensive when you don't have a real job.
That's right.
Do you think that's getting traction, complaining?
Unfortunately, I do, because this generation, my generation, I hate to say it, Gen Z and those younger than me have been raised with just silver spoons in their mouth, just getting everything handed to them.
You two are so wrong. In the past 30 years, adjusted for inflation, the home prices have gone up 35%. The asking rent has gone up 35%. College for a 4-year state tuition has gone up 100%, and health insurance has gone up 150%. Yet real wages have only gone up 20%. And I'm using 20% based on the median, which is $64,000 today. Most Gen Zers are making about $50K. In fact, about 80 million Americans are making $50K. So if they're doing their health insurance, their 401K and taxes, they're walking away with $3,100. If they're renting an apartment with a roommate, it's $1,100 with utilities, $400 for groceries, $400 for student loans, $400 for a used car, $175 for car insurance, $150 for gas, $100 for cell phone and internet, and $100 for personal care, leaves them with $275 a month. And you wonder why they're complaining. In this example, they have no credit cards, no children, no pets, no travel, no vacation, no fun, no dining out, no door dashing, no Netflix, no HBO Max, nothing, and they're left with $275 a month. This is the reality of the people who are watching the news, hearing this shit. 100 million people are struggling. We're trying to help people make more money and get the wages up. So please stop getting on the news and talking down to an entire generation. And if you are somebody who's never been broke or paycheck to paycheck after the pandemic, you don't know the pain that these people are in. And Jesse, if anyone from your team sees this video or people want to tag him, have me on for 5 minutes, Jesse. Let's have a civil conversation. Let's talk about the data, not the emotions of it, not left versus right, the data, the numbers, and the solutions that we can bring so that people can start being excited again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, bro. They never gonna have you. And if they did, let's go with it. Let's do. Oh, you know what? Let's do the hypothetical. Do you appreciate how he's gonna talk over you and clown you or attempt to? and paint you as some, forget socialist, some communist, Marxist communist. That's all they're going to paint you as. But I don't think they ever have you on. Not on Fox, at least. Essentially, in so many words, and Lion says, get your paper up. That's all they're going to say. Huh? Exactly. So you have these folks, and this is, now they're in their bulletproof, bomb-proof, reality-proof echo chambers. Huh? They're in their echo chambers. And this is a, don't worry, boomers, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Everything's okay. You know, our grandchildren are just lazy bums. Our adult grandchildren are just lazy bums. For the oldest of boomers, our 23, 24-year-old granddaughters are just lazy bums. They might be. Our 23, 24-year-old, right, grandsons are just lazy bums. They don't want to work. That's the problem. They don't want to gig themselves to death in school while doing Uber Eats and Instacart and Uber and Lyft. Huh? And they're on TaskRabbit and Thumbtack. Huh? And they have a little part-time at McDonald's. What the hell? And Walmart. Huh? Yeah. They're doing that too. And I'll have Balamuccio says, excuse me, they do want to gig themselves to death giggity. Yeah, yeah, well, the young men, the young women too, actually. Huh? Oh man. That's not sustainable. And where does it all end up, everyone? Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Where does it all end up? This one right here. And this, I don't want to laugh at the folks, but we had to do it, everyone. I kept on using this as an example. I think I might have been the first. If not the first, I've definitely been the person that's stressed it the most in the Black manosphere. The future for many women, particularly Black women, and that's if they can find someone to do this with. When everything is said and done, when there's no more retail therapy and the kids are trying to make it in their life, or you didn't even have the children, and you can't do the hours you used to do, that little extra 5-10 hours of overtime you used to do to float. And so you got to give up the house or the apartment or the condo. What happens then? And by the way, I'm not actually anti this, because this is what it looks like a lot of us are going to have to do, maybe, possibly, but especially the ladies, because they were never on a man's program. Z, this is a whole lot of preface. True. What does it look like at the end?
Thank you for being a friend.
You know, the Golden Girls. Four feisty friends living under one roof.
Jealousy is a very ugly thing, Dorothy. And so are you in anything backless.
Well, that same premise happening in real life. Meet Shirley and Susan.
I'm more like Blanche. She's probably a little more like Dorothy.
The two becoming housemates after working with the Sunshine Home Share program in Colorado.
We just sat and talked for a while, and we both kind of decided that it would work. And so here we are.
Home sharing is just a logical model. You're using existing space to solve a problem that is epidemic in this country. Loneliness is also epidemic in this country. And so it is just tackling so many issues.
As inflation continues to increase the cost of living, the typical American household is now spending over $600 more a month on the same goods and services as they were 3 years ago. For both women, the arrangement helping save their wallets.
I'm paying about half of what rents go for here. And it's been a huge help.
It really is kind of a win-win, actually, for both of us, because, she has what she needs and I have what I need. So
We were just saying we really like this, and there is a real need for programs like the Sunshine Home Share. In recent years, about a third of households headed by someone 65 or older were cost burdened by housing, meaning they spent more than 30% of their income on housing alone. And I like it in addition to obviously the financial benefits,
the mental health,
the mental health benefits.
I think it's a great idea. My sisters and I have said we would do that if God forbid ever needed. I think it's beautiful.
Well, because we tend to penalize seniors. We put them on this fixed income, and it's really hard as prices go up for them to make it work.
I would live with you.
I would live with you too.
If you had to pick one of us to live, I'm joking.
Yeah. And Saint Cyr says, loneliness is also an epidemic in this country. Wait, thought y'all said it was specific to men. Sir, what these folks would say is no. It's the impact. It's that lonely men are dangerous, and they'll pull the same thing that Professor Galloway pulls. Lonely men are more anxious. They're dangerous. Essentially, lonely men need a woman to help them not hurt everyone else. Yeah. Huh. Mo says, in reality, some of us, like myself, are going to have to work until we die. The working till you die isn't their problem. The working till you die and a woman and children not benefiting from it is their problem. Your labor isn't supposed to just be for you, and your overproduction isn't supposed to be just for you, or better yet, said differently, you overproducing isn't supposed to be just for you. It's supposed to be for larger society and for some women and kids, or a woman and kids, better yet. Whether she stays with you or not, she's supposed to have her hand in your pocket. Huh? So the loneliness epidemic has brought us here. Now, in some seriousness, I don't actually think there's anything wrong with this, especially as folks age. You'll imagine some of these folks, the folks that actually bought homes. So shout out to certain Xers, definitely us millennials, and definitely Gen Z. Having a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage to yourself in your late 60s, early 70s, that's a bit much, right? So on the surface, Mr. Z is not actually against this, right? Even if you're a widow, let's say you were married and you stayed married and you stayed on your husband's program, and y'all had children, maybe y'all didn't have children, but even if y'all had children, you have adult children who live out of town. They're 2-3 states away. They're 2-3 counties away even. So having essentially a roommate, there's nothing wrong with that. But is that going to be the case for the majority of millennial women and Gen Z women, Black ones especially? Or is it that they have to engage in this for those of them that can actually afford the home? They're going to be doing this with apartments. Is it the case that no, actually, you never got on a man's program, and so you have to resign yourself to living with someone else, another woman, whether you're same-sex loving or not, because once again, you were never on a man's program. So you don't get his Social Security when he passes. So you don't have that extra income to afford that apartment when you have to cut back on hours because you're damn near 72 now. Huh? Like, shout out to all the people who didn't do the social math. Your pension isn't going to pay out enough for those of you who have pensions. Oh my God. Your 401k, yeah, right. Your Social Security definitely don't pay out enough. So now what? Well, this is what. You essentially have to be bunkmates, not bunkmates, Z, with another older woman. So it's good that, you know, if something unfortunate happens, there's someone there with you, or somebody could you know, call 911 or something like that. So that's a plus. But many folks are going to find themselves, women are going to find themselves in this position because this is the cost of you never being on a man's program. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen this multiple times. And Saint Cyr says, "Shoot, Social Security will be done by the time we're old enough to draw from it." Yeah, yeah. Yeah, apparently it won't be solvent. I'm sorry about that, y'all. Yeah, apparently it won't be solvent. Yeah, I've heard that. I've definitely heard that. Right. And so I mention Golden Girls all the time, and it was simple math for me. It was simple math. More and more women, we already know what they say, between what, 18 to 45, or was it 24 to 45 years old or something like that. Some 45% of women are going to be single, maybe not childless, but single. When you do the social math, this is like simple. We know the majority of folks in America, especially women, don't earn enough. We know that only 40%, so excuse me, 40% of Americans can't afford a $500 emergency. So what does that look like when you're in your retirement ages? What retirement, Z? True. What does that look like for women at the age of 70? Yeah, you're gonna have to roommate up with another 68, 70, 72-year-old woman. We know men, I would argue in majority, know and appreciate they're gonna work until they die. Are women ready after about 3 or so generations of that not happening? Are women ready to go back to a world where you work until you die, until you drop? It ain't shop till you drop. It's work till you drop. Huh? Are we ready to see that? Yo, Walmart greeters looking like looking like something you would not want to be. Your Walmart greeters not just being the old nice lady, but the old lady who can't even be nice. She too old. That takes too much energy. Well, damn, Z. Tell y'all it was gonna be conversation gumbo, right? Shout out to the title. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And I don't know why I feel compelled to do this again. Fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. Because I used that damn clip. That's why. Huh? Oh man. And I'm awful says, you mean slavery? Look, what does slavery look like when you're not needed? That's a real question. What does slavery look like when you're not needed? If we have robots for that, right? Like, you can't be free. Like that's what we learned with slavery, right? So when you pay an initial cost for this robot, but then you don't ever have to worry about it again until it needs maintenance or something along the lines. But on a day-to-day basis, you don't have to worry about feeding it. You don't have to worry about the robot taking a bathroom break. You don't have to worry about the robot taking a lunch break, right? You don't have to worry about the robot stealing something on the side, right? Jipping you here and there. You don't have to worry about any of that. What happens then? It's a real question. What happens when you live in a society and economy where slavery costs too much? Damn, Z. Yep, slavery costs too much. Because you still got to maintain that slave. If all the profits are going to you, you have to do something. You have to feed that slave, clothe that slave. You don't have to do that for a robot. You just got to maintain it when it breaks. Yeah. Maybe plug it into the wall so it could charge, something like that. No. So I would argue this is going to be the new normal, what we see on this with that Good Morning America clip, whatever it is. And Lion says technological slavery is where we're headed. Ugh. Don't look good. Don't look good at all. Yeah. Continuing, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat.
This is important for people to understand. Do you know how hard it is to just make $1 million and save $1 million? Like, that is extremely difficult. Think about it. Even if you make $1 million in a year, say you live in a place like New York, they're taxing you 48%. So now you've only made $520,000 and you have living expenses.
Yeah.
I learned my first year in the NFL, I made $275,000. And I thought that I was going to be able to save it. Remember, I made it in 4 months. From September through December, February came, I only had $78,000 left. I don't spend a bad dime. It would have taken me, even making $275,000 and being frivolous, 15 years to just save $1 million. Nobody got that type of time.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And that's making $275. Most people don't make $275. But that's why Americans feel like the American dream has gone. I probably end up
Making
on a
shit
watch
more
list
affordable.
for saying this, but the fact that 1% of the population controls 99% of the world's wealth is a problem. We all, as people, can't survive if that continues to be the trend. And the truth is, it shouldn't be up to the working class people or poor people to figure them out.
Brother, so my major issue with your statement is that you felt like you had to preface your statement by speaking on the 1% the way you did. No, black people need to hear the truth. My only issue with your statement is the fact that you felt the need to preface your statement. That you felt like you was going to come off like some type of hater. Huh? That delusional aspiration, Mr. Z, is not against aspiration. That delusional aspirationalism, though, ooh. Like, if you have this brother saying, look, I was making the money. I was playing the game the right way. Even I was struggling to save. You imagine? And he used Mr. Z quote. It's not sustainable. It's not. You damn right it's not. Right? And y'all give Z a second. And L's active says, check your inbox when you get time, Z. Okay, y'all give Z a second. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. And we're back. And Honor Balamuccio says, I assure you, sir, it will founder. And that is my argument. When I say this is not sustainable, that is what Mr. Z is saying. Right? So going to what L's active sent, and we gonna watch this. This is Mr. Z's first time watching this also. So we're gonna watch this together, and Mr. Z will give his commentary. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And just in case, fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. Continuing.
Our generation is secretly becoming absurdist and you don't even know it. If you've been in any bookstore in the past couple years or online on philosophy or book talk or whatever, you've seen these be mentioned. And a lot of discourse around absurdicism has been that there's this renaissance around Camus' work. I've only recently been dedicating myself to actually reading philosophy, and I think the best way to do that is to start with a fundamental question or topic that you already find interesting. Absurdism was uncannily appealing, and I think that it also parallels and applies to our generation as a whole. It's an extremely appealing framework for Gen Z, and I think it's already manifesting in our culture and how we talk, in our language, in our memes, etc. But before I even get into that, let's just break down absurdism. I'll be as concise as I possibly can, but it is up to you if you truly want to dive deep and understand. I'm just a 20-year-old girl, okay? I'm just trying to give you my interpretation of a book written in the 19th century. So who's Albert Camus? A French-Algerian philosopher. I use that term very lightly because he wouldn't necessarily consider himself a philosopher. But regardless of semantics, you can't deny that a lot of his work and literature did just manifest into a philosophy by consequence, and because he was so influential to its time. Absurdism is an existential philosophy. It answers the question about life and its meaning or lack thereof. I'll break this down into two parts. Number one, life has no objective meaning. Number two, the human existence yearns for meaning, or in other words, instinctively in our human nature, we search for it. That contradiction, that paradox between those first 2 points, that is what Camus' absurd is. The absurd. So how does Camus want us to respond to this? By being the rebel, meaning that he wants us to reject our need for meaning entirely. And don't confuse this with ignorance or rejecting the fact that we have this instinct. It's more so rejecting the fact that you have to act upon it. Camus just saying that you don't need meaning, despite this paradox, despite this absurd that's already living within you. He deems religion as philosophical suicide, his words not mine, as well as other philosophies and ethical frameworks. But overall, anything that is trying to impose that there's this objective meaning in life, he believes is just wrong. His famous line in The Myth of Sisyphus, imagine Sisyphus happy. He's just pushing up that boulder, right? Like he's good. Gen Z already embodies this absurd mentality. Like think about our humor, right? We are probably the most self-aware of all the Gen Zs about like how paradoxical this life is. We're also living in a time where we're very easily exposed to evil and suffering in this world constantly. And we're also a very secular generation, just generally speaking. We have more and more people rejecting religion. Your average Gen Z person that I see is just actively rejecting the status quo that I feel like previous generations feel the need to carry. Like, let's even talk about our attitude towards work and corporate jobs. I see more and more Gen Z people just hating the idea or the concept of working a 9 to 5 and that being your value in life. I think this also manifests in our music. Like we're much more tolerant to more experimental things because we don't necessarily see music needing to be in a certain way or needing to fulfill a certain purpose. We're just creating for the sake of creation. Let's talk about our humor, our brain rot. I think the video was by the etymology nerd. I'm not exactly sure, but it was around the history or I guess the idea of the humor around 6-7 and how the entire meaning is that it has no meaning. And there was a lot of interesting takes. I wish I had the video, I lost it, but it was able to circle it back into like our political state around how we're just a generation filled of, again, the absurd, seeing this paradox. And
I saw that video.
Through that by rebelling with things or trends that intrinsically don't necessarily have a meaning. We're just doing it to fucking do it. Anyways, I think I'm gonna go down on a deeper Camus rabbit hole. So if anyone has gone through that or is currently going through that, LMK, you know, slide me over some resources. I also do want to write about this a bit more in depth on Substack. I just am very, very, very lazy and a very big procrastinator. But I've just kind of been tackling all these philosophers one by one, like Infinity Stones. And I think the next person I'm getting to is Nietzsche, just because I have a collection of his writings like that I got in Chicago. It's just a little thick book. And I don't know. Stay tuned for more.
Young lady, I would definitely not call you lazy. Not someone that just digging through philosophers for fun. Not someone that's just like, you know what? Oh, this looks interesting. I would definitely not call you lazy. That's not what I'm, yeah. Right? Not at 20 years old reading through philosophers for fun. That's not a sign of laziness, madam. That's definitely not a sign of laziness. Okay. So yeah, no, I think I know what she's making reference to about that 6-7, how 6-7 was a thing for a little while and it had no meaning. So that was the whole meaning. It had no meaning. I watched that. I think I know what she was referring to, and I didn't. Who was it? It was, I want to say it was Paris, Saint Cyr. that spoke on, was it her or was it another? No, it wasn't her. It's another Gen Z young lady that I reviewed once or twice so far. And she was speaking about how Gen Z, but she said Gen Z men, of course she did. It was a black young lady, and she was speaking about how Gen Z men are like obsessed with irony, right? They're obsessed with irony. And there's something to be said about Gen Z, I think, and that's why y'all hear me make reference of them so much, even though I'm a millennial. They're here to watch the world burn down, right? And it's really not that the world is burning down. Don't take that literally. It's they're witnessing the market cap of so much of what millennials took for granted, not all of us, what Xers took for granted, once again, not all of them, what boomers took for granted, the vast majority of them, but not all of them. And Gen Z, being the children of the Xers, they're hearing the stories. They actually might have been born early enough to see some of the accoutrement of infinite growth and upward mobility forever, and the graph keeps on going up and to the right, right? Or the bar, better yet, keeps on going up and to the right. And they're here now to hear about the fall of the Soviet Union and to hear about the end of history and to hear about, excuse me, when SUVs became a thing and everybody's buying a goddamn Excursion. Not everybody was buying Excursion, but I get what Mr. Z is saying. Ford Excursion, for those of you that don't understand. And they hear about homes and boomers who, even though we make fun of it, but boomers who were getting homes for a handshake and a stick of bubble gum, right? And boomers speaking about how college used to be free, or they could pay off their college tuition with a summer job. So Gen Z, the oldest of them, they get to hear about this, but then they're living through graduating college, and they have a higher unemployment rate than their cohort who didn't attend college, right? And so what culture do we expect to come from that, right? When Gen Z were encouraged to go to school for coding, and then they're graduating into coders who were making $250,000 a year, $100,000 a year, walking in the door, now unemployed as hell, just like everyone else. Huh? Yikes. So what the young lady is saying, I definitely think Gen Z, and I think Gen Alpha behind them, I think it's going to be even more insane as we watch them come of age in like the post-apocalyptic Western world. When y'all hear Mr. Z use these words, I'm talking about the social environment per se, right? Because you imagine hearing from your exer parents that their parents were married for a lifetime. Like your exer parents, their parents, the oldest of boomers, the youngest of silent generation possibly, were married for 50 years, 40 some odd years. Huh? That they bought a home and they lived in that home forever. They didn't move out in 12 years for those of them that could afford a house. Right? That possibly, yes, even in the black community, that grandma didn't work. Huh? You hear that your your grandparents were married. They met each other in their early 20s, got married, and stayed married until granddad died? Huh? And then now you are in a dating environment where them girls are telling you, if you want to link me, hit my Cash App? Huh? You're walking into a housing market where the homes are $450,000 starting practically? Huh? You're hearing that your silent generation grandparents or oldest of boomer generation grandparents, that was the first generation of the first of black folks, the first police chief of this, the first fire chief of that, the first black nurse to work at this hospital, the first, huh? The first attorney general, black attorney general of this place, and huh? The first black superintendent of this, and meanwhile, here you come with your college degree, and everybody's like, oh yeah. Jamal, yeah. That's cool. Oh, you got all A's? You was valedictorian? Yeah, that's cute. When you come up in a system like that, I expect you to engage in what she called it, absurdicism and irony culture. Because no one can give you a script anymore. That does not mean there's not going to be successful people from your generation, but it's a big gamble. Oh, wait a minute. What are Gen Z young men doing right now? Oh, gambling. Exactly. Online gambling like a mug. And young millennial men too, if you want to call it. What did we expect? Gen Z are watching Jeff Bezos have a wedding for what? A few $1 million, $20 million wedding or something like that? Meanwhile, this young man can't even get a goddamn date? Huh? What did we expect for Gen Z to do? What did we expect for young millennials to do? Huh? They went to college, they went to university for those of them that did. From some of them, they didn't even go to college for some basket weaving degree. And what we have for them is automation and machine learning and them teaching the software to replace them in 5 years. 5 years Z, true. In 2 years, 2 years Z. Okay, all right. In 9 months, what did we expect Gen Z to do? Huh? Okay, get into the gigs. You mean the gigs that's not paying? That's asking them to drive 20 miles for $7? Go into the store, go spend an hour buying stuff, then bring it to these people's house for $8. That's what they're supposed to be doing? Driving 30 miles for $14? So shout out to that young lady Els. I think this was a great find. Great find, right? But it is what she said. Look, the young folks are coming of age And we don't have the answers for them. What are we telling them to do? Don't stay true, build up your skill set. Don't think there's any job you can't do. Don't think there's any job necessarily beneath you. Be ready to pivot. Don't get too secure. Huh? And then you wonder why they don't have children? I have a coworker who's not against marriage, but he's against having children. And this is his fear. And he said it, Z, look, man, a couple years younger than Z, Latino cat. And he said it straight up, look, Z, I am afraid of dropping the ball of life happening. And I got this little one that I got to take care of. And that's a real fear. And to be fair, we critique the ladies all the time. But if you're a young man, young woman, and you were faced with nothing but precarity, I could see how you would hesitate to bring children into this world when all you see is precarity. All you are shown is precarity, and when you're shown when you are shown folks prospering, it looks almost unreal. It looks like people are trying to gaslight you. Fox News, huh? It looks like people trying to tell you what you're seeing and witnessing is a figment of your imagination, or it's because you're too damn lazy. Bums, huh? So we're gonna play it again. And shout out to that young lady, and shout out to Els Active. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Shout out to the replay gang. Thank you, bud. Hype bun, please, and thank you. Continuing.
Our generation is secretly becoming absurdist and you don't even know it. If you've been in any bookstore in the past couple years or online on philosophy or book talk or whatever, you've seen these be mentioned. And a lot of discourse around absurdicism has been that there's this renaissance around Camus' work. I've only recently been dedicating myself to actually reading philosophy, and I think the best way to do that is to start with a fundamental question or topic that you already find interesting. Absurdism was uncannily appealing, and I think that it also parallels and applies to our generation as a whole. It's an extremely appealing framework for Gen Z, and I think it's already manifesting in our culture and how we talk, in our language, in our memes, etc. But before I even get into that, let's just break down absurdism. I'll be as concise as I possibly can, but it is up to you if you truly want to dive deep and understand. I'm just a 20-year-old girl, okay? I'm just trying to give you my interpretation of a book written in the 19th century. So who's Albert Camus? A French-Algerian philosopher. I use that term very lightly because he wouldn't necessarily consider himself a philosopher. But regardless of semantics, you can't deny that a lot of his work and literature.
Pause for the cause. Adam Smith was a philosopher. Karl Marx was a philosopher. These folks figure out what the ethos is of the time, the worldview, what's the thing that we're worshiping? What's the thing that we swear by? And they pick it apart. That's where Karl Marx comes in. For everyone that doesn't get it, Marxism and communism are a response to capitalism and its excesses. It's a critique of capitalism. So when this young lady is speaking about absurdicism, the Gen Z are responding to late stage capitalism, a post-industrial, late stage capitalist society where you have literal trillionaires walking around here. How do you think you're not going to have a bunch of young folks subscribing to this when you got trillionaires walking around here? Multi-billionaires walking around here. How do we expect them not to be absurdist? Huh? Continuing.
Our generation is secretly becoming absurdist and you don't even know it. If you've been in any bookstore in the past couple years or online on philosophy or book talk or whatever, you've seen these be mentioned. And a lot of discourse around absurdicism has been that there's this renaissance around Camus' work. I've only recently been dedicating myself to actually reading philosophy, and I think the best way to do that is to start with a fundamental question or topic that you already find interesting. Absurdism was uncannily appealing, and I think that it also parallels and applies to our generation as a whole. It's an extremely appealing framework for Gen Z, and I think it's already manifesting in our culture and how we talk, in our language, in our memes, etc. But before I even get into that, let's just break down absurdism. I'll be as concise as I possibly can, but it is up to you if you truly want to dive deep and understand. I'm just a 20-year-old girl, okay? I'm just trying to give you my interpretation of a book written in the 19th century. So who's Albert Camus? A French-Algerian philosopher. I use that term very lightly because he wouldn't necessarily consider himself a philosopher. But regardless of semantics, you can't deny that a lot of his work and literature did just manifest into a philosophy by consequence, and because it was so influential to its time. Absurdism is an existential philosophy. It answers the question about life and its meaning or lack thereof. I'll break this down into two parts. Number one, life has no objective meaning. Number two, the human existence yearns for meaning, or in other words, instinctively, in our human nature, we search for it. That contradiction, that paradox between those first 2 points, that is what Camus' absurd is. The absurd. So how does Camus want us to respond to this? By being the rebel, meaning that he wants us to reject our need for meaning entirely. And don't confuse this with ignorance or rejecting the fact that we have this instinct. It's more so rejecting the fact that you have to act upon it. Camus is just saying that you don't need meaning, despite this paradox, despite this absurd that's already living within you. He deems religion as philosophical suicide, his words, not mine, as well as other philosophies and ethical frameworks. But overall, anything that is trying to impose that there's this objective meaning in life, he believes is just wrong. His famous line in The Myth of Sisyphus, imagine Sisyphus happy. He's just pushing up that boulder, right? Like he's good. Gen Z already embodies this absurd mentality. Like think about our humor, right? We are probably the most self-aware of all the Gen Zs about like how paradoxical this life is. We're also living in a time where we're very easily exposed to evil and suffering in this world constantly. And we're also a very secular generation, just generally speaking. We have more and more people rejecting religion. Your average Gen Z person that I see is just actively rejecting the status quo that I feel like previous generations feel the need to carry. Like, let's even talk about our attitude towards work and corporate jobs. I see more and more Gen Z people just hating the idea or the concept of working a 9 to 5 and that being your value in life. I think this also manifests in our music. Like we're much more tolerant to more experimental things because we don't necessarily see music needing to be in a certain way or needing to fulfill a certain purpose. We're just creating for the sake of creation. Let's talk about our humor, our brain rot. I think the video was by the etymology nerd. I'm not exactly sure, but it was around the history or I guess the idea of the humor around 6'7" and how the entire meaning is that it has no meaning. And there was a lot of interesting takes. I wish I had the video, I lost it, but it was able to circle it back into like our political state around how we're just a generation filled of, again, the absurd, seeing this paradox and kind of retaliating through that by rebelling with things or trends that intrinsically don't necessarily have a meaning. We're just doing it to fucking do it. Anyways, I think I'm gonna go down on a deeper Camus rabbit hole, so if anyone has gone through that or is currently going through that, LMK, you know, slide me over some resources. I also do want to write about this a bit more in depth on Substack. I just am very, very, very lazy and a very big procrastinator, but I've just kind of been tackling all these philosophers one by one, like Infinity Stones, and I think the next person I'm getting to is Nietzsche, just because I have a collection of his writings like that I got in Chicago. It's just a little thick book, and I don't know. Stay tuned for more.
We're just doing it just to do it, as she said, right? And Diaspora L says the precarious statue is. I'm sorry. The precarious statue is a peculiar one. It's above. Did you mean to say state? Oh, anyway. The precarious statue is a peculiar one. It's above working class, but below middle class. Yet it's more unsustainable than both. Ah. I had to read that one. Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. There was something else I wanted to read before I read that super chat. I think it was one of Mo's comments. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, she is a little cute dark chocolate. She is. Who said, okay, Miss Little Chocolate Chip? Who said it? Wait a minute. I highlighted it too. Of course, that's me. I'll be losing comments and be right in my face. Give me a second. I went way too far up. That's right. That's why. Oh yeah, it was I'm Waffles. All right, Little Chocolate Chip, we see you. Yeah. Yeah, Mo said something about that too. So it was another comment that I wanted to read. Where did it go? Oh yeah, when Mo said the great back to the great gaslightification. So that's what I saw on Fox News, that little Fox News clip I played. That's exactly what both of them were engaging in. The young lady and what's his name, Jesse Waters. That's what both of them were engaging in.
They're in their 20s and they've never had real jobs and they're complaining things are expensive. Yes, things are expensive when you don't have a real job.
That's right.
Do you think that's getting traction? Complaining?
Unfortunately, I do, because this generation, my generation, I hate to say it, Gen Z and those younger than me have been raised with just silver spoons in their mouth, just getting everything handed to them.
You two are so wrong.
Yawn. How you a generational traitor, bum? You ain't calling the blonde, blue-eyed chick on Fox News a bumsy, are you, bum? Huh? There was another comment I wanted to read. Let me see if I can find it again. It was another one. Give me a second, yo. Wait a minute. It was one of Mo's comments. Yeah, because I highlighted it earlier. And Mo says, Gumbo says, or hanging out, and this is going to what we were speaking about earlier about driving 30 miles for $14, you know, on not Instacart, but like one of those ride sharing apps. And Mo says, or hanging out in a GoPuff parking lot or Instacart trying to shop and only making $100 a night, but gas is $3.75. I was watching is it Edwards Economics, the dark skinned brother? I think he's out of Texas, maybe. And I'm subscribed to him, and he highlighted a comment about these gig jobs, and he highlighted a comment at the end of one of his videos recently, and I'm gonna paraphrase it if I remember it correctly, and it said something like that. He said, and I want to say the word absurd because we just went over it, but something like it's absurd to drive, let's say, 30 miles for $15 in a $45,000 SUV. Like, that's the era we're in. That's what the gig economy, especially with these ride sharing or any type of Instacart, Uber, Lyft, like, think of it. You're in a $50,000, $55,000 vehicle, right? Your car note is upwards of $600, $700, $800 a month, and you are commuting from one location to the next that is 10 miles away from each other, but you're doing that for $14, $15, $7, $8. Like, this is just insane, right? So yeah. Shout out to the brother. I think the channel name is Edwards Economics. I think that's the brother's channel name, if I remember. You know what? To shout him out correctly, y'all gives you a second. And we're back. It is Edwards Economics. It is Edwards Economics. Shout out to that brother. Yeah. So yeah, I was watching some of his stuff the other day, and yep. So going to what Mo was saying, and yeah. So I just wanted to play that again, and shout out to that sister. And that was a good find, Els. Thank you for that. It is saved. It is when we speak about generations, especially Gen Z. I'm definitely, that's going to be part of the repertoire. Right. Exactly. And Lion says, what's a real job? Exactly. Right. And that's Gen Z right now. Right. Yeah. And No News Podcast says, before ride sharing, food delivery got super popular. The money was good. Yeah. I think that's all of these, like, these kind of gig apps, because that's the story with Uber in the beginning, right? I remember taking Uber. This is like 2018. And the Latino guy that I was talking to was saying, he kind of worked himself to death at his job, and the money was okay, and he kind of flamed out, and so the Uber was good for him, and he was making pretty good money at Ubering and blah blah blah. He could have been lying to me, but he was something was up with my car, and he was driving me to work, and yeah, and he said he liked it, and I wonder if I was to see him now, would he say the same thing? Is he even doing it still? I doubt it, but yeah, right. So yeah. No, I think that's a lot of these kind of gig apps. They start off, they kill the competition. So for Uber and Lyft, it's the taxi service, right? And they kill the competition, and they offer super great deals. And then when the competition's gone, then they hike up the price. And then the convenience for the workers goes to crap, right? And the fact that with these ride sharing services, it's private contracting essentially, right? You're when they say you're an employee without the protections, without the perks and without the protections. Well, damn, right? And No News Podcast says I was making 1,500 to 2,000 a week after I got off for work from my regular job. Yeah, but what about the depreciation of the car and the mileage and et cetera, and new brakes and wear on your tires and stuff? But I'm pretty sure that still ain't coming up to $1,500 a week. I would love to know what the math comes out to, or better yet, what the math came out to for the era you're speaking of, and then what the math comes out to now on average for your average like Uber driver, Lyft driver, etc. Right? Yeah. Not that little thing, and Kaguru says that's why you use a Chevy Avio, Z. Avio, yeah, I know exactly what the little egg looking. It's so tiny. The ultimate econo box rental car, right? This is sub compact car. I know exactly what type of car you're talking about, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So on that note, y'all, that was just Mr. Z with the cover. Oh, talking about that. We didn't read this. And Turkish says, and shout out to Turkish, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. And Turkish said, I almost went without reading it. And I highlighted it earlier. I'm from NOLA, New Orleans. Conversation Gumbo, I know what you meant to say. Conversation Gumbo hit different. I appreciate the spot on socioeconomic, political, historic analysis. It's my favorite Z content. And thank you, brother. Thank you. Right? You're a scholar and a gentleman. And thank you, brothers. Thank you. Yeah, look, I have to do this occasionally to remind folks that Mr. Z is capable, and we're not only going to be talking about how the women is acting a fool, right? Yeah, no, this is I'm in my bag when I speak about this type of stuff, right? That's my thing. And I wanted to I have a bunch of this stuff compiled and saved, and I like to kind of leak it out with leak it out with different content that I'm speaking on, well, different angles on speaking about the women's effery. But then there's times when you have so much of this stuff that it has to have its own dedicated stream, right? And having private conversations with some of the brothers, some of y'all favorite streams, I had a I was very hyper focused on a particular angle. So some of y'all have reminded me of my Revenge of the Nerd stream. I think that was early 25 or late 2024. I know, shout out to All Hair Balamuccio. His favorite stream was my stream where I had the Titanic sinking as the thumbnail, and that's why he said, I assure you it will flounder, and that's his favorite stream. Like, brothers will remind me of streams I did, or something I said in a stream that really hit for them, or really touched them. Pause. And thank y'all for that. Thank y'all for that. I promise y'all I'll be needing that sometimes. And I have to go back to these kind of pivotal streams and clip them up and like put them as their standalone maybe I want to say shorts, but some of this stuff is I could probably clip up in a minute short, but some of them it's going to be a good 10-minute segment, right? So yeah. So, and let me read this, and thank you once again for the super chat, Turkish. Thank you for the super chat. And Leon, let's see what Leon's saying. And Leon says, Z, we talking about Uber. We talking about Uber. Wait, the corporation that lost billions in 6 years to make multiple businesses go out of business. How is this legal? This is where Yvette Carnell in Tone Talks, but especially Yvette Carnell walk in the room and speak about how Tone Talks emphasizes that too, actually. How Uber came about within months of Obama becoming president. And I don't think Obama's exclusive in this. I think a lot of presidents would have allowed it, because remember the America Obama walked into in 2008, right? This is housing recession Obama, right? This is Bush and his people's messed up so bad because of Clinton too. Bush and his people messed up so bad with the housing market that unemployment rate was sky high, and Obama had a choice to make. Not to mention who he picked for his labor secretary at the time, right? And and Timothy Geithner and all these other folks, right? And so we're here now. Over a decade later, we're here now. So shout out to Leon, exactly. And you killed the competition. Effectively, you are a zombie firm right now, right? Effectively, as bad as Elon Musk is, and as much as some of us are anti-EV cars, or we never see ourselves driving an EV, at least we could see tangibly the Tesla. At least the Tesla doing something. And it's better for the environment. Mr. Z's a whole petrol head. I'm a whole car enthusiast for real, y'all. But I'll give the EVs that overall, they're better for the environment. They actually are. At least you could see what the Tesla's doing for the world. What exactly did Uber do except bamboozle us in the beginning with the cheaper fares? Cheaper fares on our side as the people being picked up, and then more prosperous or better payouts for the drivers as the people doing the driving. And the second the taxis went out of business, or they crushed taxiing, then they flip the script and show you what they're really about. And to be frank with you, they're holding out for when they can actually automate these cars and have self-driving vehicles come and pick you up and then drop you off. This is my tinfoil conspiracy theory, and I'm almost certain I'm right. I'm like 99.9% certain about this. They're just trying to hold out for when they have like 99% confidence from Congress, and they get the go ahead to automate these vehicles, and you it's gonna be Uber, but instead of you getting in the car and having an actual driver, it's gonna be no one. Huh? Yeah. So, and Detroit says, and thank you for the super chat. Nah, taxi is on crack on these jacked up prices. I'm lost on that. You mean so the taxis have to up their prices, or are the taxi prices low as hell now? I'm pretty sure you're saying the taxis have to raise their prices, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, this was the goal, right? You drive down the prices to a point where your competition can't sustain themselves. they go out of business, then you put the prices back to where it needed to be, or you're even more expensive than the competition was. Right? And Paul Wilson says, and Waymo, yes, we have Waymo down here in Florida too. And Paul Wilson says Waymo is active in Los Angeles, driverless taxis. I've never looked into a Waymo, but I've seen a Waymo. Yep. Yep. And shout out to Paul Wilson. Yep. Yeah. Reading through your comments right now. Right. Yeah, I'm just. And Gitmo says, I mean, that happens all the time. Looks, video and MTV. Look at video and MTV. I get what you're saying. And BET, now they have been murdered. Just videos kill the radio. Now, hopefully, YouTube gods don't strike me for that. Now the streams are killing radio. Yeah. Yeah, I'm Waffles mentioned Waymo too. Yeah, they're already doing it. It's called Waymo. Yeah. I see those self-driving cars all the time. Yep. Let me see. Thank you, Brooklyn's Finest. You are a scholar and a gentleman, and I'm sorry for what I said about Jay-Z earlier. No, I'm not. But, right? And Brooklyn's Finest says, streams like this is fire, Z. It ain't all about the 304s. Exactly. And shout out to KMS. KMS, if you get this far in the replay game, KMS did something a couple years ago. Was it a couple years ago? It was at least a year ago. And we had a stream. I need a clip of that stream. I gotta go find that stream. It was a dope ass Saturday stream. And I don't remember, did KMS say that in the comments or did he come up on the stage and say that? And he said something along the lines of what you're saying, Brooklyn's Finest, which is, I love when we're not talking about the 304s. This is the type of content I like. Something like that. Yeah, because I think on that we were talking about automation. We were talking Black. I remember Black Uber being part of the panel. I want to say Better You was part of the panel. Was BGS up yet? Maybe not yet. But yeah, I gotta go find that stream. That's gonna take me a while because that stream was like sometime mid last year, maybe early last year, maybe even 2024. I don't think it was 2024. But yeah. Oh, okay. And Detroit says taxi is raising 10 times worse than Uber. Yeah. And Jay too. Jay-Z, talking about Jay-Z. Jay-Z too. And Getmo says, well, Ashton Kutcher was one of the people who helped Uber start up. I bet you he's super rich now, and now he's gone. Yeah, when was the last time you heard of Ashton Kutcher doing anything? Right? And Leon says, who are the investors willing to lose multiple billions with Uber? Why did the Democrats invest so much in Tesla? I got 21 questions. Why the remix with Jadakiss, right? And the song just popped up in my head. Right? Oh, man. The song just popped up in my head. But yeah, so on that note, everyone, YouTube checks my stats. They'll see 70-80% of my likes are Z streams. Oh, thank you, sir. And Els Actor says, if YouTube checks my stats, they'll see 70-80% of my likes are Z streams. Thank you, brothers. Thank you. All right, thank you. Right. So yeah, on that note, people, Z got things to do. I really do. And Detroit says, I've never seen Waymo driverless cars, but I think he's saying I just saw one in Los Angeles yesterday. Okay. Yeah, that's what Mr. Paul Wilson was saying. Yeah. Okay, so on that note, y'all, Z got things to do. So we will pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. And this was a 3-hour stream. Look, this could have easily been another 2 hours if I had more space to put more different non-304 related content. But I got things to do, that part too. And so we will pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all go check out other non-Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content like y'all see Mr. Z is doing. And y'all have a great rest of y'all day. And once again, email is always open. Y'all can send me stuff like this. Shout out to Els for what he sent me. And we might actually end out with that young lady. You know what? We're gonna end out with that young lady. Shout out to Gen Z. And what I Am Waffle said. Okay, I see you, Miss Little Chocolate Chip. So exactly, we'll end out with that young lady. Shout out to her. And yeah, and one of them folks made their money like Tom from MySpace and disappeared. Say that in No News Podcast. Let me read that out loud. And No News Podcast. So we'll make that the final comment and shout out to No News Podcast. And then we'll play the young lady and we're out of here. And No News Podcast says about them folks. He says, them folks made their money like Tom from MySpace and disappeared. Say that. All right. And so y'all have a great rest of y'all day. And Mr. Z out.
Our generation is secretly becoming absurdist and you don't even know it. If you've been in any bookstore in the past couple years or online on philosophy or book talk or whatever, you've seen these be mentioned. And a lot of discourse around absurdicism has been that there's this renaissance around Camus' work. I've only recently been dedicating myself to actually reading philosophy, and I think the best way to do that is to start with a fundamental question or topic that you already find interesting. Absurdism was uncannily appealing, and I think that it also parallels and applies to our generation as a whole. It's an extremely appealing framework for Gen Z, and I think it's already manifesting in our culture and how we talk, in our language, in our memes, etc. But before I even get into that, let's just break down absurdism. I'll be as concise as I possibly can, but it is up to you if you truly want to dive deep and understand. I'm just a 20-year-old girl, okay? I'm just trying to give you my interpretation of a book written in the 19th century. So who's Albert Camus? A French-Algerian philosopher. I use that term very lightly because he wouldn't necessarily consider himself a philosopher. But regardless of semantics, you can't deny that a lot of his work and literature did just manifest into a philosophy by consequence, and because he was so influential to its time. Absurdism is an existential philosophy. It answers the question about life and its meaning or lack thereof. I'll break this down into two parts. Number one, life has no objective meaning. Number two, the human existence yearns for meaning, or in other words, instinctively in our human nature, we search for it. That contradiction, that paradox between those first 2 points, that is what Camus' absurd is. The absurd. So how does Camus want us to respond to this? By being the rebel, meaning that he wants us to reject our need for meaning entirely. And don't confuse this with ignorance or rejecting the fact that we have this instinct. It's more so rejecting the fact that you have to act upon it. Camus just saying that you don't need meaning, despite this paradox, despite this absurd that's already living within you. He deems religion as philosophical suicide, his words not mine, as well as other philosophies and ethical frameworks. But overall, anything that is trying to impose that there's this objective meaning in life, he believes is just wrong. His famous line in The Myth of Sisyphus, imagine Sisyphus happy. He's just pushing up that boulder, right? Like he's good. Gen Z already embodies this absurd mentality. Like think about our humor, right? We are probably the most self-aware of all the Gen Zs about like how paradoxical this life is. We're also living in a time where we're very easily exposed to evil and suffering in this world constantly. And we're also a very secular generation, just generally speaking. We have more and more people rejecting religion. Your average Gen Z person that I see is just actively rejecting the status quo that I feel like previous generations feel the need to carry. Like, let's even talk about our attitude towards work and corporate jobs. I see more and more Gen Z people just hating the idea or the concept of working a 9 to 5 and that being your value in life. I think this also manifests in our music. Like we're much more tolerant to more experimental things because we don't necessarily see music needing to be in a certain way or needing to fulfill a certain purpose. We're just creating for the sake of creation. Let's talk about our humor, our brain rot. I think the video was by the etymology nerd. I'm not exactly sure, but it was around the history or I guess the idea of the humor around 6-7 and how the entire meaning is that it has no meaning. And there was a lot of interesting takes. I wish I had the video, I lost it, but it was able to circle it back into like our political state around how we're just a generation filled of, again, the absurd, seeing this paradox and kind of retaliating through that by rebelling with things or trends that intrinsically don't necessarily have a meaning. We're just doing it to fucking do it. Anyways, I think I'm gonna go down on a deeper Camus rabbit hole, so if anyone has gone through that or is currently going through that, LMK, you know, slide me over some resources. I also do want to write about this a bit more in depth on Substack. I just am very, very, very lazy and a very big procrastinator, but I've just kind of been tackling all these philosophers one by one, like Infinity Stones, and I think the next person I'm getting to is Nietzsche, just because I have a collection of his writings like that I got in Chicago. It's just a little thick book, and I don't know. Stay tuned for more.
You are now listening to Mr. Z Blackneffect.